Chapter 2284. A general's invitation. In that moment, Great Commander Huang Qi was overjoyed. He couldn't help but laugh out loud. Lin Ling also smiled. Congratulations, old brother Huang Qi. Of course. If it weren't for old brother's words, I fear I would still be trapped at the bottom of the well. Great Commander Huang Qi immediately stood up and bowed towards Lin Ling. This is old brother Huang Qi's lucky chance. Lin Ling waved his hand. When Great Commander Huang Qi made his breakthrough, he had sensed that several worlds of the infinite worlds seemed to be summoned, forming a mysterious strength that surged forth. This was the strength of a World King powerhouse. This was also drawing out the strength of the infinite worlds. For instance, a fire attribute martial artist could draw out the strength of a fire attribute world. If this strength was combined with their martial talent, their attack power would greatly increase. After Great Commander Huang Qi was ecstatic, he couldn't help but calm down. At this time, he discovered that although Lin Ling's words seemed to be casual, there was actually a special meaning behind them. Could it be that Lin Ling had seen through the knot in his heart and was giving him advice on how to deal with it? Old brother Lin Ling, it seems that old brother has underestimated you once more. Thinking of this, Great Commander Huang Qi spoke up once more. His words were mixed with a touch of respect. Today, I am indebted to old brother's kindness. Old brother owes you a favor. In the future, as long as old brother says a single word, I will go through water and tread on fire without hesitation. Sometimes, breaking through a boundary depended on lucky chances. In particular, when one was stuck at a bottleneck, they would be stuck at the same spot for 100 years. Thus, Lin Ling's words could be said to be a debt as heavy as a mountain. Moreover, after he was grateful, he was also shocked. He was well aware of Lin Ling's origins. Lin Ling came from a rural area in the northern lands. But Lin Ling had accomplished something that many people couldn't. This sort of feeling was far too mysterious. As he interacted with Lin Ling, he felt as if Lin Ling was his master. Brother, you're exaggerating. If it weren't for your help in the past, I wouldn't be where I am today, Lin Ling said modestly. Great Commander Lin Ling shook his head helplessly. The two of them were in a good mood and drank a few more mouthfuls. Then a voice came from outside the barracks. Great Commander Lin Ling, the Demon Destroyer General invites you to see him. Grand Commander Huang Qi's expression changed drastically. Lin Ling, go quickly. Those are the three great generals of the Martial God Battalion. Even Lin Ling was a little surprised. The general had summoned him? The Martial God Battalion has three great generals, the Demon Destroyer Great General, the Huangfu Great General, and the Dragon Killer Great General. Everyone in the Martial God Battalion would be envious if the Great General personally invited them. Grand Commander Huang Qi said again. Lin Ling nodded his head, stood up and left. He was speechless in his heart. He had just returned, and there were already so many people wanting to see him? He didn't even have time to cultivate. Seeing Lin Ling leave, Grand Commander Huang Qi smiled and shook his head. He knew that Lin Ling was a dragon among men, and would definitely soar to the sky. Now Lin Ling was starting to show his edge. Long after Lin Ling left, several figures walked over with smiles on their faces. Congratulations, brother Huang Qi. I sensed that you had broken through from afar. The people who came were all grand commanders, and the one in the lead was Ling Hulei. Hehe, you're here to ask for wine, right? Grand Commander Huang Qi scolded with a smile. What? You're still stingy with wine after breaking through? How about this? I'll treat you to some wine, and you let me try to break through. The Grand Commanders pretended to reprimand Ling Hulei, causing Grand Commander Huang Qi to laugh. These Grand Commanders called each other brothers. Now that he had broken through, these Grand Commanders would definitely be happy for him. Tell me, how did I break through? After they sat down, Grand Commander Huang Qi said mysteriously. You must have broken through naturally after many years of bitter cultivation. Ling Hulei immediately looked at Grand Commander Huang Qi strangely. Grand Commander Huang Qi shook his head with a faint smile. Do you think bitter cultivation is useful at our level? If that were the case, those experts from the three great academies of Qingzhou would have become extremely powerful. Could it be that you've obtained some kind of treasure? Ling Hulei and the others were even more curious. Hehe, treasures are only supplementary. Although they are indispensable, can they allow people to break through without bottlenecks every time? Grand Commander Huang Qi narrowed his eyes and said. Everyone's expression changed. They were not weak, so they naturally knew this logic. A cultivator's breakthrough was not something that could be improved by having a huge amount of cultivation resources. Many times, it depended on one's comprehension ability. Otherwise, the martial god realm would have been filled with experts long ago. And those cultivators from the myriad worlds would have been qualified to come to the martial god realm. It's someone else's words. Grand Commander Huang Qi didn't keep them in suspense. Could it be one of the three great generals? All the commanders sucked in a breath of cold air. Ling Hulei said enviously, "You're really something, Huang Qi. You actually got the three great generals to teach you personally. You're trying to make us jealous. You're all thinking too much. The three great generals won't pay attention to me. The one who helped me break through was Lin Ling." Grand Commander Huang Qi glanced at everyone and said indifferently. As soon as he said that, the barracks fell silent. Lin Ling was a new recruit and had only cultivated for a short period of time. Yet, he was able to help Commander Huang Qi break through with just a few words. If it wasn't for Commander Huang Qi saying it himself, these commanders would have thought that it was a farce. This guy is not simple. Ling Hulei's expression suddenly became serious. In fact, he had only met Lin Ling once. However, that one time was enough for him to know that Lin Ling was not a mediocre person. This was because Lin Ling was very calm and collected when facing seniors like them. No matter what happened, he would remain calm no matter what. It was difficult to see through him. He's definitely not simple. Right now, the three great generals have personally invited him. Grand Commander Huang Qi added. The barracks fell even more silent. Grand Commander, I'm looking forward to seeing him soar into the sky and become the youngest deputy general in the history of the martial god barracks. Grand Commander Huang Qi suddenly said, causing all the commanders' expressions to change. A deputy general was someone who could summon all the grand commanders. At this moment, Lin Ling was advancing in the martial god barracks. The martial god barracks was huge. After passing through countless barracks, an ancient mountain appeared in front of him. The mountain was like a ferocious tiger, lying on the ground. It was majestic and majestic. What was even more shocking was that no matter which angle one looked at the mountain, they would have the illusion that the ferocious tiger was looking at them. That is where the demon destroyer lord is. Ordinary people are not allowed to approach. Those who violate the military rules will be punished. Lord Lin Ling, please go. The soldier leading the way looked at Lin Ling enviously, then bowed and left. Thanks. Lin Ling bowed to the soldier and looked at the mountain in front of him. In fact, he was curious as to why the demon destroyer lord had summoned him. Without hesitation, Lin Ling walked towards the mysterious mountain. His left eye quietly opened, and he was immediately shocked to discover that it was not a mountain, but a real tiger god. The size of this tiger was frightening. Most importantly, this tiger was in a deep slumber. It was a living creature. When this tiger appears, tens of thousands of enemies will tremble in fear. The martial god barracks is so famous in Qingzhou. It seems like they have the ability. Lin Ling thought to himself. Chapter 2285. Demon Break Mountain. These people were the personal guards of the Demon Break generals. In the martial gods battalion, their positions weren't high. In fact, they were just soldiers. However, no one dared to look down on them, because they were the personal guards of the generals. From a certain point of view, other than the fact that they couldn't summon soldiers, they had all other rights. Even the Grand Commander had to give them face. Who is that person? How dare he? Is the Demon Break Mountain a place where ordinary people can approach? Don't worry, the Demon Break Tiger will devour him. The personal guards sneered. Because they were the personal guards of the generals, they had long developed arrogant personalities. At this moment on the mountain peak, three old men were playing chess. One of the spectators shouted excitedly, as if he thought that the player had made a wrong move. The spectators don't speak. Huang Fuidao, don't forget this rule. The old man who was playing chess couldn't help but say. The old man who was talking nonstop laughed awkwardly, and immediately fell silent. However, he soon shouted again. Time Dragon Kill, you are too stupid. How can you play chess like that? Stupid, stupid. So noisy. Am I the one playing chess, or are you the one playing chess? Shut up. The old man who was playing chess couldn't bear it anymore. Bullshit. When I was playing chess, weren't you shouting at the side? The spectators don't speak. This rule is also useful to you. Huang Fuidao immediately retorted. In front of outsiders, the three generals who were as dignified as martial gods were actually ordinary old men. For an ordinary game of chess, they would fight until their heads bled. You should look at that little guy. He should be here. He will walk up on his own. That's not necessarily true. If he is devoured by my demon break tiger, I can't guarantee anything. If he is devoured by the demon break tiger, it will prove that he is only SOSO. Because your demon break tiger bullies the weak and fears the strong. It will never change no matter how many years have passed. After arguing for a while, the three old men gradually quieted down and revealed meaningful smiles. At this moment, Lin Ling finally stepped onto the tiger mountain. Suddenly, a tiger's roar entered his ears. Surprisingly, this tiger's roar was silent. Only Lin Ling could hear it. Scram or die. Lin Ling even understood the meaning behind the tiger's roar. That terrifying aura was like an invisible ripple, causing the expressions of the bodyguards in the mountains to change drastically. They knew that the mysterious tiger god had awakened. Soon, they stared at Lin Ling mockingly. Although the Demon Break Mountain was a forbidden area of the Martial God Battalion, there was no lack of troublesome recruits who wandered around with curiosity. However, when they arrived at this place, they were scared witless before they even entered the mountain. Therefore, they knew that the young man of unknown origin was definitely going to lose face. However, Lin Ling smiled and continued forward. Roar! An even more terrifying tiger roar resounded. It was as if thousands of soldiers and horses were boiling. Moreover, mountains of corpses and seas of blood were everywhere. It even made people feel as if the world within the myriad of worlds had collapsed in an instant. This kind of aura was so terrifying that even 10,000 enemies couldn't approach it. In fact, this demon-shattering tiger was the general's mount. When the two armies were fighting, the tiger's roar would cause the enemy to lose the ability to fight. Over the years, the tiger's accumulated aura was naturally extremely terrifying. However, the person it was facing this time wasn't an ordinary person. Moreover, he wasn't an ordinary genius either. He was the ghost genius Li Xiaoyao. Li Xiaoyao had risen like a comet in the martial god realm. He had seen all kinds of situations. Even when he was surrounded by more powerful enemies, he had never been afraid. How can you get the tiger's cub without entering the tiger's mountain? Calm down. Lin Ling was still as calm as ever. He had already seen through the origin of this mountain. In addition to Li Xiaoyao's knowledge, he naturally wasn't afraid. Roar! As Lin Ling arrived at the mountainside, the tiger's roar became even more frenzied. It seemed to think that Lin Ling had underestimated it. However, Lin Ling still continued forward despite the tiger's roar. He was as still as a mountain, and wouldn't be shocked even if the sky collapsed. Who is this guy? At the mountainside, the bodyguards' expressions changed drastically. This was because it took them more than 10 years to gain the demon-shattering tiger's approval. However, the young man didn't fear the demon-shattering tiger, even though it was his first time here. His courage was too strong. Most importantly, they knew that if the demon-shattering tiger really came out, the young man would definitely die. From a certain perspective, the young man was dancing on a tightrope. You're just an animal. Without a master, you're nothing. So, don't be a dog that bullies others. At this moment, Lin Ling finally spoke. His tone was extremely calm, and there was no aura to speak of. However, his determination and fearlessness were extremely strong. Gradually, the ancient mountain quieted down. It seemed to have sensed Lin Ling's ferocity, and also seemed to have sensed that Lin Ling wasn't afraid of it at all. In reality, Lin Ling wasn't wrong. At this moment, the demon-shattering tiger was just a watchdog. When a stranger came, it would naturally bark. However, since the stranger wasn't afraid of it, it began to retreat. This little guy is really brave. How can he be a commander if he's not brave? However, he's too arrogant. Chapter 2286. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios, I'll meet him personally. The moment the sword was drawn, the sword light was like water. The bodyguards on the mountainside were all stunned. Lin Ling actually took the initiative to draw his sword? This was going against his superior. How dare you? Are you trying to assassinate the general? The bodyguards shouted angrily. In their eyes, Lin Ling was courting death. In fact, from their point of view, they didn't care about Lin Ling's position at all. They only needed to know how strong Lin Ling was. Lin Ling was a new recruit from the previous batch. At the very most, Lin Ling could only convert 60% of his boundary essence. If they considered the upper limit, it would be 70% at most. 70% was already very impressive. However, they could unleash 100%. I've served the general for 10 years, but I can't meet the general whenever I want. So, you think you can meet him whenever you want? One of the bodyguards took a large step forward, forming a wave of air. His entire body was like a whirl as he charged toward Lin Ling. Salute fist. A majestic fist appeared in his hand. The name of this fist technique was very ordinary, but its origin was not small. It was created by the general himself. Level 1st grade top tier. This was the benefit of becoming a bodyguard. When the general was in a good mood, they could receive guidance at will, and their strength would increase by leaps and bounds. 80% of his boundary essence. Lin Ling's eyes flashed. As expected of a bodyguard, his martial arts had probably increased by 20% of his boundary essence. However, he still smiled and slashed out with the sword in his hand. At the same time, a soft voice floated out. Bodyguards are still soldiers after all. Shameless boasting. When the bodyguards heard Lin Ling's words, their eyes narrowed. Lin Ling was looking down on them. No matter how arrogant they were still just soldiers. Cripple him. Instantly, the bodyguards roared angrily. Boom! On the mountainside, a deafening sound rang out. A sword seemed to have pierced through 10,000 worlds, and instantly pierced through the bodyguard who had punched out. The remaining people's eyes narrowed. What happened? They then realized that Lin Ling had already walked past the bodyguard. And the bodyguard didn't move at all, maintaining his punching posture. Big brother Wu Yongqing converted 80% of his realm essence, and even used the martial arts that the demon-destroying general personally taught him. How could he not defeat that new recruit? That's impossible. The military salute fist has the military might of the martial god battalion. With one punch, tens of thousands of enemies would tremble in fear. Big brother Wu Yongqing is definitely not defeated. Not bad. The bodyguards frowned. Plop. However, in the next moment, the bodyguard that had remained motionless collapsed like Mount Tai. Blood flowed out from his fist. At this moment, all of the soldiers narrowed their eyes. Defeated? Wu Yongqing was the strongest among them, yet he was defeated with a single move? One had to know that if these personal guards had participated in the Divine List training, they would have definitely gotten first place. However, the general didn't allow them to participate. After all, they were personal guards and not commanders. But now a new recruit had defeated them? What was the background of these new recruits? What sorcery did you use? The bodyguards glared at Lin Ling, and their expressions became even more serious. 90% of realm essence, Black Sword record, Mount Tai crush. Lin Ling said with a smile. His large sword drew on the ground and made a sharp sound. Black Sword record, that's a second-grade realm essence martial art. The general said that with our strength, we can't cultivate second-grade martial arts. He actually cultivated it and succeeded. The bodyguards sucked in a breath of cold air. Only now did they realize that although Lin Ling's sword seemed to be very slow, its power was terrifying. It was as if it suppressed the power of an entire realm. This person is not simple. We can't underestimate him. Set up the formation. Dignified voices floated out from their mouths. At the same time, a strange power spread out. Green smoke emitted from everyone's body and intertwined with each other, forming a huge green ancient worm in the air. This worm's body was full of worm eyes, but its green armor was extremely hard. It stared at Lin Ling with disdain. 7-kill demon-breaking formation. They were bodyguards and their mission was to protect the general. Thus, they had learned a powerful guardian formation. It could be said that once this formation appeared, Even a World King powerhouse would find it difficult to take another step forwards. Try taking another step. As the array formation formed, the bodyguards roared out. Today, they could not allow Lin Ling to reach the summit. Otherwise, they would lose all face. This was because if the general's bodyguards couldn't stop a newcomer, and this news spread out, how would others view them? At this time Lin Ling frowned. He didn't think that these bodyguards would be able to lay down such a mysterious guardian formation. Not even a World King powerhouse can break it? Lin Ling muttered to himself as his left eye appeared. Do you know how fierce we are now? Let me tell you, just by the fact that you forced your way into demon-breaking mountain today, we can erase you, the bodyguards coldly said. They thought that Lin Ling was afraid. As a matter of fact, Lin Ling had indeed stopped in his tracks. He was still staring at the mysterious green insect. I admit that you were able to defeat Big Brother Wu Yongqing, and that you are a fierce genius of the Martial God Battalion. We have all underestimated you, but you are only SOSO. Now you can tell us your name. In the end, the group of bodyguards left the Demon Break Mountain with anger and frustration. My name is Li Pomo, one of the 3 great generals. This is Huang Fuidao, you've met him before. The other one is General Time Dragon Killer. The old man quickly retracted his gaze and looked at Lin Ling with a faint smile. Greetings, 3 great generals. Lin Ling immediately saluted. He had already guessed that the general must have invited him for a purpose. Everything before was just a test. After all, the general wouldn't be so bored as to deliberately target Lin Ling. You're good, very good. At first, I thought you were a very good soldier, but I didn't expect you to be a talented general. In fact, if you had agreed to be my disciple, I would have been very happy, but I would also have been disappointed, because this meant that you were only SOSO. Fortunately, you didn't agree. If you become the disciple of the Demon Break Great General, you can only be a general for the rest of your life. Since you refused, your future will be even more limitless. In fact, I invited you here today to introduce you to the Marshal. The 3 old men spoke one after another, causing Lin Ling to suck in a breath of cold air. Marshal? The #1 expert of the Martial God Battalion? Those who can meet the Marshal are all gifted, and have a bright future ahead of them. They might even take over the position of Marshal. Huang Fuidao's aged eyes flickered with light. This was the purpose of their invitation to Lin Ling. It was because Grand Marshal Violent Tiger had issued an order to find a seedling in the Martial God Battalion to take over the Martial God Battalion's martial seal. They thought highly of Lin Ling, so they tested him. However, Lin Ling had met the requirements. The position of Marshal. Lin Ling's expression also became solemn. I wonder if this position of Marshal requires me to guard the Martial God Battalion forever? What if I want to enter the 3 great academies of Qingzhou? I wonder if there will be a conflict. There's no need. It's just a martial seal. The battle of the Martial God Battalion is handled by us 3 great generals. Huang Fuidao immediately smiled and explained. Moreover, it's not that simple to take over the position of Marshal. You're just one of the candidates. Hearing this, Lin Ling's heart relaxed. In fact, the 3 great academies of Qingzhou were his goal, because only by going there could he know the whereabouts of Tian Liuli and the others. Now that the martial seal didn't conflict with his goal, there wasn't much of a problem. Alright, I agree. Don't agree too early. In the past 10,000 years, there have been many candidates for the position of Marshal, but they have all fallen in the long trials. That's why rice has to be eaten one bite at a time. Li Piamo smiled again and said, Now the Grand Marshal's mission is about to begin. You should prepare first. If your performance in the mission is not bad, you can be promoted to Deputy General. Every month, your Divine Crystal reward will increase by 100 times. And you'll also be rewarded with a set of treasured battle armor. Treasured battle armor? Lin Ling's pupils constricted. Treasured battle armor was above immortal battle armor, and the support of treasured battle armor was realm essence. For example, the Bailing flag and the martial god cannon were treasured battle armor. Although Lin Ling could also forge treasured battle armor, the materials required were too expensive, so he definitely wouldn't miss this reward. Alright, I'll become a deputy general. Lin Ling smiled confidently. This mission was just right for him to improve his strength. Go. Of course, before that, you can go under the martial god tree to comprehend a bit. That's the reward we 3 great generals gave you. As for that place, it's a treasured place to look at the world around the world. It'll be helpful for your state of mind, comprehension, and everything else. Huang Fuidao said again. Lin Ling quickly saluted and then left. Over the years, there have been countless people who wanted to take the marshal's seal. Many monstrous geniuses even moved me. But if you want to talk about the one who left the deepest impression, it's only him. Yes, his talent seems very ordinary, but he can always do things that ordinary people can't. Most importantly, he's the first person who met us who was neither arrogant nor humble. After Lin Ling left, the 3 great generals smiled with admiration. Over the years, they had indeed seen many monstrous geniuses, but Lin Ling was the only one who wasn't afraid of them. This was very rare. I think he'll take the marshal's seal, Huang Fuidao said as he looked at the sky in front of him. But soon after he sighed. Unfortunately, his ambition isn't in the martial god battalion. When these words fell, the other 2 old men trembled. What a proud and arrogant junior. If other people could become the marshal of the martial god battalion, they would be proud of it for the rest of their lives. However, Lin Ling's vision didn't stop there. Chapter 2289. The Martial God Tree. Because this was something that was simply impossible to do, Lin Ling walked down the Demon Break Mountain with a smile on his face. The primeval seal? He was quite interested. Most importantly, if he could obtain the primeval seal, he would have even more hope of entering the 3 great academies of Qingzhou. Although the ancestor of the Dragon Granny had personally invited him, that was through the back door. Lin Ling didn't care about that. He wanted to step into the top place of Qingzhou. Only by taking it one step at a time could he return to his former peak. After Lin Ling walked down the Demon Break Mountain, the soldiers glared at Lin Ling angrily. However, that was all they could do. They didn't dare do anything. Lin Ling just smiled at those angry smiles. He didn't care about them at all. Sir, please come with me. A soldier walked over respectfully and led Lin Ling to the martial god tree. I really envy this guy. But what gives him the right? We've served for 10 years, and are the general's trusted aides. He's been favored by the general the moment he arrived. Does he have 3 heads and 6 arms? It's just a moment of arrogance. Although I know that the general thinks highly of him, many geniuses have been invited by the general over the years. However, many of them have also fallen. That's right, the soldiers said coldly. Their eyes were filled with murderous intent. Of course, if they had known that General Li Pomo had invited Lin Ling to see him as a marshal, they wouldn't have dared to reveal their murderous intent. They thought that Lin Ling was going to become General Li Pomo's trusted aide, which conflicted with their interests. That was why they were targeting Lin Ling. The martial god tree was said to have been found by the general in Huanyu. It was a mysterious ancient tree that had been born and grown in Huanyu. There wasn't anything special about this tree. However, it could allow a martialist to become more familiar with Huanyu. When Lin Ling arrived at the martial god tree, he was shocked to discover that it was actually a tree of talents. In his world, the talent tree was called the talent tree. The talent fruit at the bottom of the tree was weaker, while the talent fruit at the top was the strongest. When facing light, the talent fruit would lean towards fire and light, while when facing darkness, the talent fruit would lean towards darkness. And such a tree had appeared in front of Lin Ling. We've arrived, Lord Lin Ling. Remember not to miss the commander mission in half a year. The soldier respectfully left. Lin Ling nodded and walked towards the martial god tree. The tree floated in the sky with its leaves swaying gently. Its roots were like dragons, and its fruits were colorful. A mysterious aura emanated from it from time to time. What a pity. The fruit of this tree is useless to me. Chapter 2290. The World of Water. The scout barracks had also arrived. Under the leadership of Lin Ling, it was a refreshing sight. However, among the soldiers, many of them stared at Lin Ling with malice in their eyes. At least 60% of them were like that. Because someone had secretly issued a bounty, Whoever could kill Lin Ling would be rewarded with 100,000 divine crystals. Although Lin Ling's position in the martial god barracks wasn't low, many people didn't need to be afraid of him in the outside world. Your mission this time is to enter the blue water world. Your goal is to kill the Sea Discord Phoenix King. This person is cruel and ruthless. He has already slaughtered hundreds of worlds and countless lives have been taken by him. Therefore, the myriad worlds request the martial god barracks to exterminate the Sea Discord Phoenix King. Yes. At this time, a majestic voice came from the sky. All the commanders nodded their heads. Army, move out. Then, a huge flag appeared in the sky and was waved heavily. Dong! 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 War drums were beaten at this moment, shocking the world. A moment later, a huge vortex appeared in the sky. It seemed to lead to another world. The world in the vortex was pitch black. But everyone knew that the vortex was the road to the martial god barracks. It led to the blue water world. The blue water world was located in the west world. The martial artists there were only SOSO. However, the Sea Discord Phoenix King couldn't be underestimated. This person was a rogue martial artist in the martial god barracks. He practiced the cultivation method to increase his strength by killing people. He was wanted because he had killed many martial artists from the lower commanderies. This person led the powerhouses under his command to escape to the blue water world. Then, there was a bloody storm there. As for the strength of the Sea Discord Phoenix King, it was a mystery. However, one thing was certain. This person was at the World King realm. Let's go. Lin Ling led the scout army into the martial god barracks. After crossing the mysterious passage, monstrous waves suddenly rushed over. These waves were extremely fierce. Some of the weaker soldiers were directly smashed into pieces. Not good. We've encountered the Universal World Wave. A Grand Commander blew a horn to inform the entire army. The so-called Universal Boundary Waves were a mysterious strength that was born from the world of the universe. It was said that these waves were born from the collision of countless world essences. For instance, when the world essences of water and fire collided, a terrifying wave would form. It was said that an even stronger wave could even crush a World King powerhouse to dust. Fortunately, the waves this time were not as powerful as the legends said, but they were not to be underestimated. Lin Ling's complexion changed as waves after waves crashed into him. At this moment, he realized just how terrifying the world's strength was. No matter how strong a martial artist was, they would still have to submit to it. In just a few moments, the army was scattered. Goyalu. After an unknown period of time, Lin Ling's vision finally recovered. Looking around, he found himself in a world of water. There was water all around him, and all kinds of fish he had never seen before were swimming in front of him. Blue water world. Lin Ling was inwardly shocked. The mission had introduced that the blue water world was a world of water. All the martial artists and ordinary people here lived in the water. Interesting. Lin Ling's body emitted a faint light, blocking out the water. Then he swam forwards. Because of the universal boundary waves, he had been separated from the others. Of course, this was also beneficial to Lin Ling. After all, if he moved forwards alone, he could increase his strength and wouldn't become a thorn in their side. Goyalu. The world in the water was extremely mysterious. Many fish swam past Lin Ling, curiously looking at Lin Ling. Lin Ling was also incomparably curious. In fact, this was his first time moving in the world of water. Rumble, rumble, rumble. At this time, it was like a volcano had erupted in front of him. The entire bottom of the water shook. Lin Ling's eyes flashed and he swam forwards. Then, he saw that at the edge of a giant ancient mountain, two fish monsters he had never seen before were colliding. The strength of these two fish demons was extremely formidable. The shockwave formed from the collision directly killed countless small fish. As for the two fish demons, the one on the left had two fish heads. There were two lantern-like tentacles hanging from the fish heads. They were respectively fire and ice. The one on the right was like a water snake. It was as huge as a mountain, and its body was full of barbs. It was extremely ferocious, and they seemed to be fighting over a shiny bead in the water. That bead was a blood bead, and it emitted a mysterious power. Seeing this, Lin Ling's eyes lit up. He felt that the bead was extremely precious. You guys continue fighting. That bead is mine. Lin Ling swam towards the blood bead, causing the two king of fish demons to be stunned. They never expected that a human would appear here, and even want to snatch their spoils of war. Was this puny human courting death? Roar! The snake-shaped fish monster spat out a large number of bubbles, and immediately swam towards Lin Ling. Moreover, it looked down at Lin Ling and ant. Its body began to wrap around Lin Ling, an ant who overestimated himself to death. In fact, it had successfully wrapped around Lin Ling. Moreover, its eyes looked towards the other fish monster, preparing to continue the battle. However, in the next moment, it realized that the ant it was wrapping around seemed to have swelled up. An indescribable power erupted. I'm just passing by. You guys fight, I'll go my way. Ling Wulai stepped back and his legs started to tremble. Do you think the martial god battalion will know that they died here? Lin Ling finally spoke. His words made Ling Wulai's body tremble even more. It seemed like he had nothing left to say. You're so unlucky. You know that we have a grudge against each other. How dare you show up in front of me? Lin Ling raised his sword and asked Ling Wulai to kneel down. He kowtowed and said, Sir, please spare my life. I was wrong. Ling Wulai finally regretted when he was about to die. His voice was filled with despair. Lin Ling was not someone he could offend. I know many people want to kill me. Unfortunately, they will all fail. You will never live to see that day. Lin Ling would not show mercy to a person like Ling Wulai, because he had spared Ling Wulai's life several times. So after Lin Ling said that, he drew his sword without hesitation. Sir, I am willing to be your vanguard. Please spare my life. From now on, I am willing to leave the martial god battalion. Ling Wulai kept begging. The only thing he could do was to beg for his life. When he met Lin Ling for the first time before the divine list started, he looked down on Lin Ling. He thought that the falling flowers flowing water sword was the king of scouts. However, after the divine list battle, he knew that Lin Ling was the king of scouts. He had missed out on the most powerful scout. After that, his strength increased greatly. He wanted to avenge himself, but he was defeated again. Now, he was like an ant in front of Lin Ling. He could only kneel down and beg for his life. Unfortunately, his pleas for mercy were quickly silenced by a sword. Chapter 2293. Commander's Arrival. Bang! Without waiting for the giant fish to react, the martial god cannon's massive beam of light shot out. A single cannon shot shook the heavens and earth. Even Lin Ling sucked in a breath of cold air. This was because the martial god cannon had been charged up for a long time, and had consumed even more divine crystals. Its might had surpassed his imagination. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The entire cave seemed to have been dug open. A massive tunnel appeared, extending without end. This was the result of the martial god cannon's bombardment. As for the 5 curved gate giant fish, they had been blown to pieces. The martial god cannon was terrifying. If it weren't for the fact that this cannon had been charged up for a long time, and that it had burned too much money, Lin Ling would have no need to fear a world king powerhouse. Fish pearls. Then, Lin Ling stared at the fish pearls that fell from the cave, and couldn't help but laugh. He hurried towards the bottom of the cave, and had falling flower flowing water, and the others collect the fish pearls. What happened? Are there curved gate giant fish at the bottom of the cave? Not good. Lord Lin Ling is still at the bottom of the cave. At this time, outside the cave, falling flower flowing water, and the others' complexions changed. The previous explosion had seemed as if it would destroy a world. This caused them to worry. In fact, that cannon shot had indeed pierced through a world. At this time, on the other side of the blue water world, a massive amount of water had rushed out. However, the blue water world was an extremely stable world, thus it hadn't directly collapsed. Lord Lin Ling, could he have met with a mishap? At this time, Lu Qingfeng and the others also rushed over, their faces full of worry. Good that he died. Tang Yue sneered, but her words were insincere. Her beautiful eyes were also filled with worry. Even if you die, I won't die. At this time, from the giant blue hole, a figure floated out. It was Lin Ling. You bastard, your breath stinks. Tang Yue angrily scolded, but her heart was actually jumping with joy. Lin Ling hadn't died. This was too good. My lord. The others were also overjoyed, especially Falling Flower Flowing Water. He stepped forward and asked, My lord, did you encounter a curved gate giant fish? However, to be able to escape unscathed from the jaws of the curved palace giant fish is already quite impressive. Sir, why don't we mobilize our entire battalion and use our scouts to kill that curved palace giant fish? As soon as he said that, the others also looked like they were ready to die. Although the curved gate giant fish was powerful, they had the numbers advantage. No need, I've already roasted the fish. Hearing this, Lin Ling's heart warmed. These people were extremely loyal. He immediately replied with a smile. The curved palace giant fish was taken care of by Sir. A curved palace giant fish represents the strength of a world king powerhouse. Everyone opened their mouths wide in disbelief. This was because even if Great Commander Lin Ling and the others were present, they would still have to avoid the curved gate giant fish if they encountered them. Yet Lord Lin Ling had killed one? Not one but 5. However, Lin Ling's following words made all the scout commanders feel as if they had been struck by lightning. Follow me. Ignoring the dumbfounded crowd, Lin Ling had already shot towards the blue hole. Freak. Why is it like this? If I remember correctly, he is from the same batch of geniuses as us. Why is the difference so great? Each of the commanders smiled bitterly and followed Lin Ling. When they reached the bottom of the cave, the fish pearls around the cave caused everyone to open their mouths wide. This was a huge sum of money, especially for martial artists with water attribute talents. This place was simply heaven. They looked at Lin Ling again, and found that Lin Ling had already collected a large number of fish pearls. Moreover, these fish pearls were the largest and contained the richest power of the universe. Next, I will be refining these fish pearls here. Can you guys help me guard the surroundings? Lin Ling looked at his subordinates and said. Right now his strength was still too weak. Therefore, he had to race against time to increase his strength. Sir, don't worry about breaking through. Unless my head is stepped on, I swear to protect you with my life. Sir, please cultivate. Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword, Wu Qingzi, Lu Qingfeng, and the rest patted their chests and said, without Lin Ling, there would be no them. Therefore, the stronger Lin Ling was, the prouder they could be, and their strength would also be able to reach a higher level. You can cultivate as much as you want. No one can kill you except for me. Tang Yue also said with a smile, causing Lin Ling's heart to feel warm. These fellows were all his opponents in the past. Now, they had all become his companions. Lin Ling chose to trust these companions. Immediately, Lin Ling sat down cross-legged. Right now he needed to improve his physical strength and convert his realm essence. In this way, he would not be afraid of World King realm experts. Fish pearls floated around him, and Lin Ling kept stuffing them into his mouth. As expected of Sir Lin Ling, he can actually use water attribute fish pearls to cultivate. Could it be that his talent is water attribute? Or is his cultivation method very special? The chess boy looked at Lin Ling in surprise. These fish pearls could not be used for cultivation, but they could be used to exchange for divine crystals. However, Lin Ling could use them. This made them feel that Lin Ling was full of mysterious aura. Then, they hurriedly collected the fish pearls and kept throwing them at Lin Ling. Chapter 2294. Swarm bang, bang, bang. After the experts landed, they looked at the bottom of the cave in shock. They were attracted by the fish pearls and ignored Lu Qingfeng and the rest. What are you doing? The curved gate giant fish here was killed by Lord Lin Ling. The fish pearls should belong to Lord Lin Ling. Lu Qingfeng thought for a moment and stepped forward. The curved gate giant fish is dead? Hearing that, the experts' faces changed. That's right, it was killed by Lord Lin Ling. Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword also spoke, reminding the others not to be greedy for the spoils. Lin Ling is here too. Yes. Among the experts, Su Tian's eyes lit up. Then he saw Lin Ling in the corner. Lin Ling seemed to be cultivating. And this was the perfect opportunity. Bullshit, we're all from the Martial God Battalion. There's no distinction between you and me. The fish pearls here should be shared by everyone. Su Tian immediately said, causing many people to nod their heads. They also saw that Lin Ling seemed to be breaking through his realm. In fact, even if Lin Ling did not break through, they were not afraid of Lin Ling. After all, even though Lin Ling was the Grand Commander, he only had a high position. Don't go too far. Hearing that shameless voice, Tang Yue felt that the situation was getting more and more troublesome. These guys obviously did not intend to retreat. Hee. We can only say that we thank Lin Ling for killing the curved gate giant fish for us. As for the fish pearls, we'll kindly accept them. Also, is Lin Ling cultivating? Great, cultivating in front of us, he's courting death. This is a reward from the heavens to us. The experts sneered. Not only were they greedy for the fish pearls, but they also wanted to kill Lin Ling. How dare you? Falling flowers, flowing water sword, and the rest did not expect these commanders to be so shameless. Lin Ling's head is worth 100,000 divine gems. Do you think we wouldn't dare? Su Tian was the first to walk out, laughing as he walked. To him, today's encounter could be considered a miracle. Not only was the harvest good, most importantly, he was able to kill Lin Ling and avenge his brother. Whoosh! A red sword appeared in his hand. It was the Red River sword. In the past, when Lin Ling fought with him, Lin Ling forced him to the point that he couldn't use his sword. Now he wanted to use Lin Ling's head as a sacrifice to his sword. Breaking through? Unfortunately, even if you've broken through, you're still no match for us. Of course, how could I allow you to break through so easily? Su Tian let out a cackle, as if he was extremely satisfied and comfortable. And his words were indeed true. This was because amongst these commanders, several of them were half a step into the World King realm, and were able to erupt with 100% of their world essence. Lin Ling was not their match. Red light flashed and world essence gushed out. With a loud boom, Lu Qingfeng and the other two could not block the red-haired commander's attack at all. They all spat out blood and were severely injured. You are just a lowly soldier. How dare you offend your superiors? Are you courting death? The red-haired commander disdainfully pointed at the three of them. The aura of a superior emanated from his body as he coldly said, "Now, I'll give you a chance. Scram immediately, or you'll all die here. We'll give you a chance now. Get out of here immediately, and we'll let bygones be bygones." However, Lu Qingfeng and the other two quickly stood up and used their actions to prove their answer. These people are really stubborn. They'd rather die than retreat. Commander, they're underestimating you. You must kill them, or you'll lose your dignity. Seeing this, the other commanders all spoke darkly. They wanted to use someone else to do their dirty work. Hearing this, the red-haired commander's eyes turned even colder. He was ranked third among all the commanders. How could he be humiliated by a lowly soldier? Bang! He once again pounced like a god of death. His murderous intent was so strong that it was as if he didn't see Lu Qingfeng and the others as his own people. Kill them. As long as they're dead, Lin Ling can be destroyed with a wave of his hand. Go! The red-haired commander cared deeply about his reputation. So Lu Qingfeng and the other two had to die without a doubt. However, facing the third-ranked commander, Lu Qingfeng and the others still refused to retreat. They faced death with equanimity. In fact, they weren't even commanders. How could they block the enemy's attack? However, just as they thought they were about to die, all the commanders on Lin Ling's side moved. They were Wu Qingzi, Di Baimo and Qi Tong. The three of them, together with Lu Qingfeng and the other two, had joined forces. Boom! Terrifying airwaves erupted. This time, the six of them blocked the red-haired commander's attack. However, they were all seriously injured, especially Lu Qingfeng. Even his arm was broken. The third-ranked commander of the Martial Gods Battalion was indeed powerful. As for the red-haired commander, he only retreated a few hundred meters. However, his eyes turned even colder. Do you think trash like you can stop me? The people I want to kill never live past the second day. Bang! After saying this, he prepared for the second round of attacks. Facing the arrogant red-haired commander, Lu Qingfeng and the other five looked at each other and revealed a resolute expression. At this moment they didn't have any fear. They only had pride and arrogance. That was because protecting their commander was the mission of a soldier. Boom! However, as the battle broke out, the cave rumbled again. It was as if a meteor had fallen from the sky. In the endless dust, two figures walked out like military gods. How lively, yes. When he saw Lin Ling breaking through, his Jie Yuan was also increasing rapidly. At that time, he thought it was an illusion, but reality told him that it was not an illusion. Bang! With a slash of the sword, the water was split apart, and a void appeared. The second-ranked evil spirit commander was directly smashed into pieces. Only his head fell to the ground. This slash contained 110% of the power of Jie Yuan. It was as if a mountain had fallen from the sky. This was called the pressure of Mount Tai. In fact, during this breakthrough, Lin Ling had converted 20% of his Jie Yuan. In total, he had converted 70% of his Jie Yuan. With the addition of the 10% from the Tyrant Song Sword and 30% from the Black Sword Record, he could erupt with 110% of his Jie Yuan. His strength instantly rose to the second commander's rank. Moreover, the reason why he could grab the spear so easily was because his godly demon body had increased again, reaching 2,000 Jie Yuan. His body was filled with the aura of the Fish Demon King. Then, Lin Ling stood up, and it was as if the Demon King had awakened. As for the cave, it was completely silent. The previous sword strike was undoubtedly extremely shocking. The second commander was killed by a single slash. It was as if lightning had gathered above everyone's head, and the shock was too fierce. I, Commander Evil Fiend, have followed the great commander throughout my life, and have killed countless villains. I never imagined that I would die here today. You are just a mere new recruit, and yet you possess strength no weaker than a world king. Just who are you? Surprisingly, the commander's head made a sound, as if he had died with his eyes wide open. And of course, he had died with his eyes wide open. After all, a martial artist's cultivation was one step at a time. Although he had a high evaluation of Lin Ling, he also knew that if Lin Ling wanted to reach his height, he would need to climb 2 steps. That was why he had been so confident. Chapter 2297. Drawing the sword stained with blood. Bang. However, Lin Ling did not even look at him. He stomped his foot down like a giant fish's tail. The evil spirit commander's head turned into a pile of meat. Lin Ling didn't say much. He took a step forward and shot towards Tang Yue, because Tang Yue was in the most danger right now. After all, Tang Yue's cultivation level was too low. She was only able to fight Commander Poison Butterfly because of her weapon. However, the control of a weapon was related to one's cultivation level and could not last long. Go to hell. Bang! Commander Poison Butterfly's 2 giant hammers were smashing towards Tang Yue fiercely. On the other hand, Tang Yue's face was pale. She could no longer hold on to the flag in her hand. At this moment, a huge contradiction appeared in her mind. Previously, she had suddenly stepped out to protect Lin Ling. In reality, she did not know why she did so, and the price was that she was going to die. Did she regret it? Or was she willing? However, Tang Yue felt that she did not regret it at all, and was not willing either. Instead, she was very calm, like the surface of an ancient well without ripples. Yue, remember, you are training outside, not in the commandery. No one will show mercy to you just because you are the princess of the commandery. Therefore, power is everything. Bang! She vaguely remembered what her mother had said to her. This made her smile miserably, because she would never see her mother again. However, what she had imagined did not happen. The giant hammers did not smash down. Tang Yue saw nothing but silence. She focused her gaze and looked in front of her. Instantly, she saw a young man in a blue robe standing in front of her. His long hair fluttered in the wind as he raised his giant sword and blocked the 2 giant hammers from the sky. It was Lord Lin Ling. Tang Yue subconsciously touched her small mouth and could not say a word. Crack, crack, crack. The giant hammers in the sky made a fragile sound. In the next moment, they broke apart and sparkling fragments shot out from the water. Whoosh! However, this did not stop. Lin Ling slashed out with his sword. It was as if the most beautiful sword light had flashed past, and did not even cause ripples in the water. Plop! Commander Poison Butterfly's body was split into 2 and fell to the ground. Tang Yue was stunned. Lord Lin Ling saved her? If you want to die, then you can only die by my hands. No one else can kill you. She was stunned for a moment before she heard the cold and indifferent voice of the young man. When she wanted to say something, the young man had vanished. This caused her to be stunned once more. She'd wanted to protect Lord Linling. But in the end, she'd been protected by Lord Linling instead. At this moment, the cave was even quieter. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. By the time they realized what had happened, the commanders discovered that Linling had already killed 2 people. Moreover, they were both top commanders. How did this Linling become so strong after his breakthrough? Impossible. Rumor has it that Linling only converted 50% of the boundary essence. But from the looks of it now, he seems to have converted 70%. On the other side, the red-haired commander's pupils trembled. He never imagined that the legendary recruit Linling would be so fierce. At this moment, Linling walked over. His eyes were cold, and he didn't even say a word. How much boundary essence did you convert? That indifference made the red-haired commander feel a lot of pressure. He roared. Perhaps this was the only answer he wanted to know. Shua. However, the answer he got was a sword. A sword descended from the sky. It started from the center of his head and cut him in half. 110% of the boundary essence. Who could compete with it? The water at the bottom of the cave quietly turned blood red. Blood was spreading. Everyone stared at the blue-robed youth. They were shivering like grass in a storm. They were afraid, because the strength Linling had increased after his breakthrough had greatly exceeded their imagination. Not good. Su Tian had personally witnessed the terror of Linling. He quickly retreated from the battlefield. He realized that not grasping the opportunity to kill Linling was the most regretful thing in his life. However, just as he moved, a sword hung on his neck. It was as if his movement technique had been completely seen through by Linling. This made Su Tian turn his head to look. On his left, a cold figure was already standing there. This young man squinted his eyes and stretched out his right hand, with a sword hanging on his neck. The young man just stood beside him. Throughout the entire process, he did not even look at Su Tian. Gulp. Su Tian swallowed his saliva with difficulty. He realized that he should have been a coachman instead of participating in the plan to kill Linling. Shua. He wanted to say something, but Linling didn't even look at him. He held his sword horizontally and slashed out. At this point, there was no need to say anything. Any explanation, any words were superfluous. The only thing left was to kill. Although he was breaking through, these people were shameless and cold. He had seen it with his own eyes. Suddenly blood gushed out. Clean and neat. Dead. Those who attacked are all dead. The commanders in the distance all widened their eyes. Moreover, something strange happened. After Su Tian's neck was cut off, his head floated in the water. At the same time, his mouth uttered the last words of his life. Spare me. Plop. In the next moment his head fell to the ground. However, it was as if it had fallen into everyone's hearts. Linling, drawing his sword and staining it with blood, killed one person with each slash. Whether it was a commander or a soldier, no one could block one slash from him. Sir, you're so powerful. Tang Yue, falling flowers and flowing water were stunned. Previously, they had all moved out, but they could only barely block the enemies. However, Linling moved out alone and killed all the enemies. Although they were excited about Linling's strength, they also felt inferior. This was because they wanted to protect Linling. But in the end, they were protected by Linling. Linling seemed to be aware of their feelings. He said indifferently, "You don't have to belittle yourselves. Although they are strong, they have cultivated for a longer time and had more fortuitous encounters. It's the same for me. However, on the path of martial arts, no matter how strong you are now, if you can't reach the heavens and earth, you will be a pile of dirt in the end. Therefore, although we are stronger than you today, you may not necessarily be unable to surpass me in the future." Linling was speaking the truth. In the past, Li Xiaoyao had stirred up a storm in the martial god realm. He was respectfully called the #1 demon. But what was the use? After he died, who would still remember him? Sir. Hearing this, falling flowers, flowing water and flowing water's eyes lit up. The lost confidence also returned. They believed Linling's words, so they began to believe in themselves. Of course, They were also even more grateful to Lin Ling. Lin Ling smiled and began to look at the others. Wherever his gaze passed, those commanders were like cicadas in winter, their bodies trembling. What? Now you know fear? Lin Ling held his sword and walked forward step by step. Those commanders were silent. In fact, they were indeed afraid, and even regretted it. But so what if they regretted it? They were too embarrassed to say it out loud, because it was too embarrassing. Sir Lin Ling, before we... Finally an old man spoke. He wanted to beg for mercy. Chapter 2298. Invincible in the Martial Emperor Realm. As these words fell, the entire cave was filled with a terrifying killing intent. The commanders widened their eyes. Great Commander Lin Ling was too tyrannical. He wanted to kill them all. Of course, you still have a choice. First, you can join forces. 1 is fine, 2 is fine too. Lin Ling said again, his words frivolous as he looked down on the commanders. The second choice is to commit suicide. As these words fell, the killing intent in the cave became even more intense. Putong. Some of the weaker commanders were so scared that they fell to their knees. Facing Lin Ling, they didn't even dare to join forces. Humph, stop trying to be mysterious. However, at this time, an icy cold voice rang out. It was the tall and sturdy man. He strode forward step by step. It's Great Commander Earth Explosion. The commanders shouted out in excitement, as if they had grasped onto a life-saving straw. This was because Great Commander Earth Explosion was the strongest of all the commanders. He was also a veteran that had cultivated for many years. In truth, his strength could already be ranked among the great commanders. As for Lin Ling, he also looked at this person. He already knew that Great Commander Earth Explosion was the strongest commander, but he still didn't feel much fear in his heart. His left eye could sense that this person was at the peak Martial Emperor realm, and had 80% of his world essence. The pair of boots on his feet were very mysterious, and could increase his world essence. In addition, with the world essence martial arts, Lin Ling estimated that this person could erupt with 130% of his world essence. This strength was indeed enough to rank him among the great commanders. Of course, to the current Lin Ling, unless he was a true world king powerhouse, no matter how strong he was nothing but a floating cloud. Your strength is quite good, but don't think that just because you killed Great Commander Evil Fiend that you are the strongest commander. You seem to have forgotten about me. Do you not know who I am? The tall and sturdy man walked forward step by step. A strange thing occurred. As he walked forwards, the ground of the cave began to rise and fall like waves. His legs were very thick, very uncoordinated with his body. As he walked, there was a mysterious rhythm that filled the air. I'm still here and you want to kill everyone here? Do you have a pair of dog eyes? Let me tell you, don't think that you can be arrogant just because you have 110% of your realm essence. With me here, you won't be able to kill anyone. The burly man pointed at Lin Ling and said domineeringly. Of course, he had absolute strength and tyranny. Previously, he didn't make a move because he wanted to see through Lin Ling's strength. But now he saw through it. Lin Ling was only SO. Commander Di Ba is mighty. Kill him. The other commanders were even more excited. They never thought that they would be able to reverse the situation and turn defeat into victory. Some of the commanders even stared at Lin Ling proudly, wanting to see Lin Ling's fearful expression. Tell me, weren't you very proud before? Didn't you give us 2 choices? Why don't you dare to say it now? You're a great commander, but you're nothing in front of a great commander. The other commanders said contemptuously. Lin Ling ignored their voices and looked at the great commander instead. He realized that the other party was enjoying everyone's worship. He smiled and said, in fact, I really don't know who you are. That's why I gave you 2 choices before, including you. As soon as he finished speaking, the clamoring of the other commanders stopped. The great commander was stunned, and veins popped out on his forehead. Lin Ling didn't know who he was? Even now, Lin Ling still treated him as a dead man? If that was the case, his previous arrogance was in vain. He was playing the lute to a cow. Shameless boasting. The great commander was furious. He stomped heavily on the ground, causing the cave to collapse. Don't even think about leaving here today. The huge cave slowly collapsed. The great commander wanted to seal off Lin Ling's escape route. Obviously, he had full confidence in killing Lin Ling, so he was afraid that Lin Ling would run away. However, Lin Ling smiled and slashed out. He didn't slash at the great commander, but at the cave in the sky. Rumble. The two of them attacked the cave at the same time. As a result, the cave was completely sealed off. The crowd was stunned. Previously, the great commander had sealed off Lin Ling's escape route. However, not only did Lin Ling not run away, he even helped the great commander to seal off the cave. What was he doing? None of you can leave here today. Stop. While the crowd was puzzled, Lin Ling coldly spat out a sentence. He was afraid that everyone would run away, so he sealed off their escape route as well. Boom. At this moment, all the commanders were shocked. They didn't know where Lin Ling got his confidence from. Why was he so arrogant? The great commander felt as if he had been slapped in the face by Lin Ling. He had sealed off his escape route, but Lin Ling had also sealed his escape route? Could it be that Lin Ling was still confident that he could kill him? Do you know that I am invincible in the martial emperor realm? You will pay the price for your arrogance. Heaven and Earth Supreme Kick. The great commander stomped on the ground and shot towards Lin Ling like a meteor. The shadow of a kick appeared in front of Lin Ling. Lord Lin Ling. The falling flowers flowing water soared, and the others breathed rapidly. They could feel that the kick contained 110% of the realm origin force. This was the strength of the number one commander. Invincible in the martial emperor realm. Not bad. At this moment, Lin Ling's face was extremely calm. He held his sword at an angle. When the kick was about to land on him, he slashed out with his sword. This sword was like a rainbow, descending from the sky. Black Sword Record, Mount Tai Crush. Boom. The kick and the giant sword collided. The cave rumbled continuously, as if there was a great battle. 110% of the realm origin force collided with each other. Is that all you have? Lin Ling held his sword and stared coldly at the Earth Tyrant Commander through the blade. The great commander's face was extremely ugly. His kick could not kill Lin Ling. He sneered and said, "You only rely on that sword. You also rely on that pair of boots on your feet." Lin Ling said tit for tat. Boom. After the two of them spoke, the power of the collision reached its limit. It was as if the two worlds had perished together, forming a terrifying realm origin tornado. If these realm origin tornadoes were placed in Lin Ling's world, it would be enough to destroy the world. Swoosh. Swoosh. Almost at the same time, two figures flew out and stood a few hundred meters away from each other. In their first confrontation, they were evenly matched. Previously, you said that you are the number one commander and invincible in the martial emperor realm? Lin Ling did not wait for the great commander to speak and said sarcastically. This was because after their first confrontation, the great commander was gasping for breath. As for Lin Ling, he was safe and sound. Of course, this was thanks to Lin Ling's powerful body. His defense was too strong. It can't be, the great commander can't win? Impossible, absolutely impossible. I heard that the great commander defeated a first-stage World King realm powerhouse. He can't lose. That was just a warm-up. The commanders felt their blood boiling. This battle of the strongest commanders was too intense. It seems that not only do you have 110% of the realm origin force, but your body is also very strong. At this moment, the Earth Tyrant Commander slowly straightened his body, and his aura was restored. Then he raised his leg high, and the soles of his feet were above his head. I was just playing with you. Do you think you've won? Let me tell you, I have 130% of the realm origin force. So, let me show you what it means to be invincible in the martial emperor realm. With these words, it was as if he was the ruler of the world, commanding the winds and clouds. Chapter 2299. Unrivaled against the number one. Seeing this, all the commanders felt their blood boil with excitement. Earth Tyrant startles the heavens. In fact, the Earth Tyrant Commander hadn't used his trump card before. The reason was that he wanted to kill Lin Ling cleanly, but he had failed. Thus, he used his most terrifying ultimate skill. This was because he knew that Lin Ling's mortal body was extremely strong. Only his ultimate skill could kill Lin Ling. His leg slowly stomped down, as if it were the leg of a god. And what was even more shocking was that his leg was only stomping on the ground in front of him. Bang! Even so, the ground still exploded, shaking without end. However, this attack caused many people to frown. The Earth Tyrant Commander was stomping on the ground, but he didn't attack Lin Ling? Only Lin Ling knew that the Earth Tyrant Commander had used a boundary origin martial art. He had used the power of the boundary origin to attack him, as if he had secretly buried a bomb. Li Xiaoyao had also seen this martial art in the past. When it was powerful, its body was in a myriad of worlds, but with a single stomp, the power of the boundary origin could reach the martial god world. It could kill without leaving a trace, passing through a world. Bang! At the same time, the ground where Lin Ling stood erupted like a volcano. The boundary origin had rushed out. It was impossible to guard against, and the power was vast. A massive beam of light shot out from the ground, piercing through the bottom of the cave. It was terrifying. At this moment, everyone held their breaths. What a terrifying boundary origin martial art. This was because they hadn't been able to sense that attack before. And because the power of that kick was too fast, they simply couldn't catch it. Is Lin Ling dead? Then, many people stared ahead, becoming increasingly nervous. Of course he's dead. Under my invincible martial Emperor Commander, how could he still be alive? The Earth Tyrant Commander's voice floated out, telling everyone the result of the battle. And regarding this, he was 100% confident. This was because he had used this move to kill a first-level World King Realm powerhouse, without anyone noticing. He's dead, he's definitely dead. Since the Earth Tyrant Commander has spoken, it can't be wrong. After hearing the Earth Tyrant Commander's answer, the other commanders felt as if they had been given a new lease on life. Some of them even danced in excitement. Because they didn't have to die. This feeling of escaping death, who wouldn't be excited? As for Tang Yue and the others, their faces were pale. That move from before was too terrifying. Not only was the power of boundary essence powerful, it was even more difficult to deal with. Why are you so happy? However, the cheers in the cave were quickly stopped by an indifferent voice. Under countless gazes, Lin Ling slowly walked out from the rubble. This caused everyone's pupils to constrict. Lin Ling had actually dodged that kick? Impossible. With your strength, how could you avoid the earthly tyrant shocking the heavens? Commander Tyrant stared at Lin Ling, as if he were looking at a ghost. This was because that move that could kill a first-level world king actually hadn't killed Lin Ling? This was too strange. How could he know that the moment he lifted his leg, Lin Ling had already seen through his martial arts? In fact, he had seen through it even more deeply than Commander Tyrant. Thus he had easily dodged it. In other words, Commander Tyrant wasn't much stronger than Lin Ling. His only advantage was in his martial arts. That martial art was a top-grade martial art, and it had been cultivated to the peak by Commander Tyrant. It had to be known that a top-grade martial art was even more difficult to comprehend. And if one wanted to cultivate it to the peak, the difficulty was comparable to ascending to the heavens. However, it was only a top-grade boundary essence martial art. How could it be difficult for Lin Ling? Because I am the strongest under the World King Realm. Lin Ling indifferently said as he lifted his leg. Lin Ling is the strongest under the World King Realm. This means that unless one is a World King powerhouse, no one is his match. As for Commander Tyrant, he is invincible in the martial Emperor realm. Between the two of them, who is stronger? Beneath Lin Ling's words, all the commanders felt their hearts rumble. Even falling flowers and flowing water were the same. What arrogant words! Commander Tyrant was so angry that he nearly lost his mind. Was this invincible against the strongest? If it were anyone else who said this, he would definitely laugh in disdain. But since Lin Ling said it, he couldn't ignore it. Because even now, he still hadn't killed Lin Ling. His previous arrogant declaration was now even more ironic. Arrogant words? Lin Ling laughed, disdaining to explain. He lifted his foot high, and at this moment, a mysterious power bloomed, as if it was the leg of a god. This scene was too familiar. Not to mention Commander Tyrant. Even the other commanders felt it was very familiar. This was because this leg seemed to be Commander Tyrant's shocking sky. It was Commander Tyrant's trump card. Tyrant shaking heaven and earth. Bang! Before anyone could react, Lin Ling heavily stomped on the ground, causing the ground to tremble. But soon the trembling quieted down. Instead, a strange atmosphere lingered in the cave. Everyone nervously looked around, wanting to know if Lin Ling had succeeded. No, no, no. How could this be? It's impossible. Commander Tyrant kept shaking his head. Everything that had happened today was beyond his understanding. Therefore, he comforted himself by telling himself that it was all fake. Bang! However, the ground told him the answer. Like a volcanic eruption, a huge light beam shot up to the sky at a speed that was beyond one's perception, crushing the bottom of the cave into dust. This power, 13% of the realm origin force, this speed was unfathomable. Wasn't this Tyrant's shocking sky move? Everything was exactly the same. Monster. Everyone looked at the scene in a daze, and only this word floated in their minds. In fact, they had always thought that Lin Ling was no match for Commander Tyrant, and this was the truth. However, if Lin Ling also had Commander Tyrant's move, then it would be hard to say who would win. As for the realm origin martial arts, it was very difficult to cultivate. It required a strong comprehension ability, and even a martial god realm genius would need to spend a few years to learn it. Even Commander Deba took 300 years to cultivate this move. Moreover, he was certain that he was the only one in the martial god battalion who knew this move, because he had obtained this martial art from a secret realm in the myriad of worlds. Now Lin Ling had also learned it, and it was strange that he had learned it. Could it be that Lin Ling had learned it immediately after watching him use it? And he had learned it so easily. Thinking of this, Commander Tyrant stared at Lin Ling, as if he was looking at a martial god descending to the mortal world. What was a genius? A genius was here. Bang! Bang! However, before he could recover from his shock, the ground shook again. A second shock wave shot out from the ground, causing the bottom of the cave to disappear. 2 consecutive shock waves of realm origin? Compared to the might of the Earth Tyrant Commander, this kind of might could be said to be even greater. It could also be said that the student had surpassed the master. Bang! However, the terrifying thing was that before the second shock wave of Tyrant's shocking sky ended, the third shock wave followed closely behind. Moreover, the final shock wave was even more ferocious, almost reaching 14% of realm origin. This caused Commander Tyrant to kneel down, because he knew that this was the peak of Tyrant's shocking sky. Tyrant shaking heaven and earth. What was a genius? A monster was the most terrifying. Moreover, this was the most dazzling monster in the martial god realm. Invincible in the martial emperor realm? Under the deafening sound, Lin Ling walked over step by step with an evil smile on his face. At this moment, he was like a demon king. Chapter 2300. Incomparably powerful Lin Ling. I had no other choice. I was ordered by the demon-destroying general's personal guard Wu Yongqing. How about we shake hands and make peace? Suppressing the shock in his heart, Commander Deba stood up and frowned. He knew who he had offended. This was a character that was comparable to the 9 heavens of Qing province. If he had known earlier that Lin Ling was so terrifying, he would never have provoked Lin Ling. That's right. Is it Wu Yongqing? The other commanders also began to shout. Although Wu Yongqing and the other personal guards did not have high statuses, because they were close to the general, everyone would give them face. However, Lin Ling remained indifferent and continued forward. Commander Deba began to retreat. As the strongest veteran commander, he no longer had the will to fight. As for the other commanders, how could they still be proud of themselves? Their faces were all pale, and the more cowardly ones even began to run towards the hole in the sky. Finishing touch. It was too late to think of running away now. Lin Ling's sword slashed out, and the few commanders who were running away were immediately split in 2. Commander Deba shuddered and said, "The one who wants to kill you the most is Commander Qian Xian. If you want to settle the score, you should settle it with him." Whoosh. However, in response to that sentence, Lin Ling slashed out again. Ah no. Those commanders who tried to escape were killed once again. Furthermore, as long as the commander made a move, he would be the first to die, causing the remaining commanders to not dare to make a move. Their hearts were bleeding, and they could not resist. They could only watch helplessly as the Grim Reaper came. Lin Ling, how about you let me go? I can help you to resolve the grudge between you and Commander Qian Xian. The Earth Tyrant Commander shouted even louder. He was trying to find a straw to clutch at. However, he didn't know that his words were useless. Take the personal guard for example. Not only did Lin Ling not fear him, he had even ruthlessly humiliated him. Moreover, at that time, the great general didn't help the personal guard, and instead helped Lin Ling. This meant that between the personal guard and Lin Ling, the great general would absolutely choose Lin Ling. As for Commander Qian Xian, Lin Ling's position was different from his. It could be said that they would not rest until one of them was dead. This kind of grudge could not be resolved by anyone. Thus, the answer to his question was a single sword strike, causing a large number of commanders to die once again. You've gone too far. I'll fight you to the death. Commander Deba finally understood that Lin Ling wanted to kill him. A black pill appeared in his hand, and he was about to stuff it into his mouth. The finishing touch. However, before he could do anything, Lin Ling had already slashed down with his sword. His arm was cut off. The medicinal pill fell to the ground along with his arm. No! His last hope was snuffed out, and he knelt on the ground powerlessly. He knew that he would definitely die today. He recalled everything that had happened before. At that time, he thought that he would definitely kill Lin Ling, so he was so arrogant. But now, he realized that it was all mockery. Lin Ling, I really didn't know that you were so strong. Otherwise I wouldn't have interfered. I, Deba, have been cultivating in the martial gods barracks for thousands of years. Today, I will die in the hands of a recruit. I can't accept this. Commander Deba seemed to have aged a lot at this moment. Based on what you've said, if I wasn't strong enough, I would have been killed by you? There is no enmity between the two of you. You attacked me because you wanted to curry favor with the soldiers and Commander Qian Xian? According to your logic, only you can kill me, and I can't kill you? Lin Ling's lips moved slightly, and he finally spoke. Commander Deba opened his mouth, but he found it hard to refute. You said that I'm a recruit, and I won't deny it. But don't forget that I'm a commander. Lin Ling finally raised his sword. Dragon Qi gushed out from it, and he slashed out with his sword. Commander Deba raised his head, and he realized that he was not dissatisfied. He wanted to kill the commander, and that was an act of insubordination. "Aye!" he shouted, but in the next moment, his head was cut in half. He's dead. The remaining commanders looked dispirited and fearful. Their last pillar of support was also dead. "It's your turn." Lin Ling looked at them coldly. "Sir, please spare our lives." Those commanders immediately knelt down. They were finally convinced by the words sir. You call me sir when I'm on the verge of death. And when you're in control of the situation, I'm just a piece of trash, a cripple? Lin Ling kept his sword and stood up. He shook his head and laughed. No matter where he was, there would always be people from different factions. He could not change anything. The only thing he could do was to kill whoever provoked him. "Sir, we have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai." Those commanders kowtowed in unison, which was extremely embarrassing. However, their kowtows seemed to be effective. Lin Ling turned around and walked towards Falling Flowers, Flowing Water Sword, and the others. Is Sir Lin Ling going to let us go? It must be. After all, we have too many commanders here. If Lin Ling killed all of them, he would not be able to answer to the Martial Gods Battalion. That's right, it must be so. Those commanders raised their heads and smiled secretly. However, they were overthinking it. How people treat me is how I treat them. How could Lin Ling not dare to kill them? Boom! At this moment, a shockwave rushed out from the ground. It was Deba Tianjing. Under the shockwave, a large number of commanders died. Then a second shockwave appeared. The signs of its appearance were unpredictable. Boom! It was as if a mine had exploded underground, and more commanders were killed. Boom! When the third shockwave appeared, the cave was dyed red, and all the commanders were dead. It's so powerful. Tang Yue and the others were dumbfounded. They did not expect that the people who had killed their way into the cave today would be wiped out. Moreover, there was only one person who had killed them, and it was their lord Lin Ling. After that, When Lin Ling walked over, they all bowed to Lin Ling. At this moment, they treated Lin Ling as if they were facing a general. "Are you all alright?" A smile appeared on Lin Ling's face as he said kindly. Earlier, these people had risked their lives to protect him, and this made Lin Ling completely approve of them. "My lord, we're fine now. Lu Qingfeng's severed arm has also been recovered. It's slowly recovering now." Tang Yue and the others immediately replied, and Lin Ling nodded. He looked at the surroundings and said with a smile, "Collect the fish pearls in the surroundings. Collect the things left behind by those dead commanders as well." Although danger lurked in every direction, the benefits were also enormous. Looking at the people collecting the spoils, Lin Ling's eyes flickered. This breakthrough was a little rushed, so he did not break through to the limit. There were still many fish pearls in his body that had not been completely consumed. Of course, the current results were barely satisfactory to Lin Ling because his boundary essence had been converted by 20%, reaching 70%. Moreover, he had comprehended a new boundary essence martial art, Di Ba Tianjing. This move could increase his boundary essence by 50%, allowing Lin Ling to explode with 130% of his boundary essence power. In fact, this move seemed powerful, but in terms of potential, it was not as powerful as the Black Sword record. Chapter 2301. The ferocious Lin Ling, sir. These are the fish pearls we collected. At this time, everyone came back. Their faces were filled with joy. It was obvious that they had obtained a great harvest. Lin Ling, on the other hand, shared the spoils and left with the others. He was no longer the same as when he had just arrived at the Blue Water World. He was confident that he could fight against a first-stage world king. A first-stage world king was a powerhouse who had converted 100% of their world essence. However, not everyone could successfully merge with their talent. Secondly, if the world king powerhouse didn't have a powerful treasure, then a martial emperor could defeat him. Of course, it had to be an outstanding figure in the martial emperor realm, such as Lin Ling. When they came back to the surface, a large number of soldiers were gathered there. The battle in the depths of the cave is so fierce. I heard that Lin Ling is also there. I wonder what the result is. They're definitely dead. Earlier, I saw the first and second ranked commanders enter the cave. With the command of the soldiers and Commander Qian Xian, it would be strange if Lin Ling didn't die. The soldiers were discussing spiritedly. At this time, a large number of figures floated out, causing everyone to fall silent. It was Lin Ling's scout barracks. Moreover, Lin Ling was also there. "Lin Ling, why aren't you dead yet? Where are the other commanders?" Finally, someone shouted angrily. This person was also a commander. He wanted to enter the cave, but the cave collapsed at that time, causing him to miss the opportunity. At this time, Lin Ling appeared with everyone. Lin Ling looked at the commander indifferently and said, "They're all dead." "What?" Everyone's expression changed drastically. "You lied to us. How can you be a match for the strongest commanders? They are famous powerhouses in the Green State." The previous commander said in disbelief. Hearing this, Falling Flowers and Flowing Water sneered. Was this guy looking for death? Lied to you? Yes. As expected, Lin Ling's expression turned cold. In fact, many soldiers of the Martial God Battalion wanted to kill him, and he was already angry. After all, they were all from the Martial God Battalion. So why would these commanders listen to the orders of Qian Xianshan and the others? Could it be that Qian Xianshan was the commander, but Lin Ling wasn't? Now that he had just come out, these people seemed to be eager for him to die. How could he not be angry? Go to hell and ask them, and you will know whether they have deceived you or not. Without wasting any time, Lin Ling's body flashed, and he appeared in front of the commander. Then he viciously punched out, relying on his god-devil body, which had already reached 2,000 universes of strength. His defense was extremely strong, and he was not afraid of ordinary world essence energy at all. You're courting death. The commander clearly didn't expect that Lin Ling would attack just like that. He angrily shouted. However, his voice made Falling Flowers Flowing Water soared, and the others finally laugh out loud. Courting death? He was the one who wanted to die. Lord Lin Ling had no enmity with him. After he came out alive, he was very angry. And now he dared to say that Lin Ling was courting death? Boom! Lin Ling was too lazy to talk nonsense. He punched out. For this kind of person, letting him die was the best result. Under countless gazes, the commander was blasted into pieces. The others instantly opened their mouths wide in disbelief. Firstly, they didn't expect Lin Ling to be so strong. He didn't even use world essence to kill the commander. Secondly, they didn't expect Lin Ling to be so arrogant. He directly killed the commander without saying anything. The remaining people stared at Lin Ling. They didn't believe that Lin Ling was so arrogant. Lin Ling smiled and said indifferently, "Who dares to say that I'm courting death? Don't be too arrogant." Someone finally spoke up. Perhaps he still hadn't accepted reality. "I like people with backbone." Lin Ling's smile became even more evil. Swoosh! With a slash of his sword, the person who spoke was split into two. He died again. He only retorted and Lin Ling killed him? Lin Ling was too arrogant. Everyone opened their mouths wide. At this moment, they gradually became afraid. Lin Ling was simply a demon. He directly killed someone without saying anything. They quietly retreated. They didn't dare to say anything else. "Speak. Let's see who still dares to speak." Lin Ling's cold eyes stared at them. At this moment, the majesty of a commander was also released. He couldn't make everyone obey him. However, he could use his strength to make them all shut up. "The commander asked you to speak. None of you dared to speak. Previously, all of you were gloating as if the commander Lin Ling was going to die. Now that I've given you a chance to speak, why don't you dare to speak?" A bunch of trash. Falling flowers and flowing water sword also spoke up. "You called us trash." If Lin Ling scolded them, they definitely wouldn't dare to refute. However, even Lu Qingfeng scolded them. Some of the commanders were instantly unconvinced. Lu Qingfeng and the others weren't even commanders. What right did they have? Kill him. However, just as the person who spoke, Lin Ling waved his hand. "I'll do it." Lu Qingfeng immediately stepped forward. He pulled out his sword and coldly stared at the person. Their scout camp was almost completely wiped out. Everyone had died once. This made them suppress the anger in their hearts. So what was there to be afraid of now? Those who didn't submit would be killed. After all, these people didn't treat them as members of the martial god battalion. "You, a soldier, dare to kill me?" The commander frowned and released his majesty. He wanted Lu Qingfeng to see him clearly. "Try to resist. If he loses a single hair, I'll kill all of your people." However, Lin Ling immediately threatened him. No matter where it was, strength was everything. Since the commander had already drawn his sword, Lin Ling naturally wouldn't be merciful. The commander didn't dare to speak anymore. Lin Ling was ruthless. If he dared to attack Lu Qingfeng, all of his people would die. Plop. The commander knelt down. He finally knew how troublesome the situation was. He didn't offend a recruit, but a senior commander. "Lord Commander, it was my bad breath that offended you. I hope that you can spare my life on account of my humble apology." He knelt down and kowtowed to Lin Ling, hoping that Lin Ling would change his mind. Cut off his arm and teach him a lesson. Lin Ling looked at him calmly, and finally said to Lu Qingfeng, "Yes." Lu Qingfeng smiled coldly. At this moment, he felt proud and elated. He came in front of the commander and swung his sword. Swoosh! Blood splattered everywhere. The commander's arm was cut off by him. A soldier cutting off a commander's arm was extremely rare in the martial god battalion. Now it had happened in front of everyone. However, the commander who had his arm cut off didn't dare to say anything. He could only smile bitterly. "Sir, please spare my life." The others' expressions changed drastically, and they all bowed. They finally realized how terrifying Lin Ling was. A bunch of trash. Scram. Lin Ling naturally couldn't be bothered to kill all of them. The main reason was that although these people were watching a good show, they didn't make a move in the end. Those who made a move would be killed, and those who didn't, he wouldn't kill the innocent. Everyone slap yourselves 3 times. You have to use all your strength before you leave. These 3 slaps are to tell you that you shouldn't have bad breath. Chapter 2302. Killing soldiers. Fight, fight, fight. Let's fight. The soldiers and commanders raised their palms. Pa 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 pa. The sound of their palms slapping rang out without end. Let's go. Lin Ling looked at them with disdain, and then led everyone away. Haha. Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword saw these people slapping their own faces, and immediately laughed out loud. Dibai Mo represented the scout camp, and left behind some arrogant words. Remember, do not underestimate the scout camp. It was clear that under Lin Ling's leadership, the scout camp had completely raised their flag. Lin Ling is too arrogant. Could it be that all the powerhouses that entered the cave have died? I think that's most likely the case. Otherwise, how could Lin Ling and his people have come out alive? Even Commander Diba died? He killed a first-stage world king before. After Lin Ling and the others disappeared, everyone bitterly smiled and looked up. Now, they discovered that they had walked a circle around the hands of the god of death. My lord, what should we do now? Lu Qingfeng asked Lin Ling as he followed the waves. Lin Ling stared ahead. Now that his strength had greatly increased, he had the qualifications to complete this mission. But before that, there were some people he had to kill. He had to spit them out. Kill those soldiers, Lin Ling coldly said. Those soldiers weren't too strong. They were only relying on the support of the great general. Such a villain actually dared to kill him, Lin Ling? It seemed that sparing their lives last time was too merciful. Chi. Hearing this, Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword, and the others sucked in a breath of cold air. Kill the soldiers? This was no small matter. If any of the soldiers had a good relationship with the great general, then they would be in trouble. Don't worry, I will support you. Go ahead and kill them. Lin Ling smiled and said to them. This caused confidence to rise in their hearts. They believed in Lord Lin Ling. Send out orders. Have everyone in the scout camp investigate the whereabouts of the soldiers. There is no need to pay attention to the enemy's movements. Lin Ling said again. Yes, sir. Falling Flowers, Flowing Water, and the others were immediately delighted. In fact, they were the local geniuses of the Qing prefecture. They were arrogant and wanted to see the world in chaos. However, the Martial Gods Battalion was too cruel and had strict military rules, so they didn't dare act too arrogantly. But now, with Lin Ling backing them up, what did they have to fear? In an instant, the three of them formed a group and disappeared on the spot. Scouts were also scouts, and they were obviously better at finding people than the other troop classes. While Lin Ling was waiting, the scouts also sent news that they had found the whereabouts of many of the personal guards. All right, let's kill them one by one. Wait for me over there. Lin Ling's lips curled into a cold smile as he began to raise his butcher's knife. At this moment, there were battles everywhere in the blue water world. The subordinates of the sea burial disorderly phoenix monarch were fighting the army of the Martial God Battalion. Lin Ling went along with the waves, causing the eyes of many warriors at the bottom of the water to flicker. This was because in a battle between armies, apart from a few powerful individuals, who would dare to advance alone? The soldiers of the Martial God Battalion, haha, how unlucky. They actually encountered us. Lin Ling quickly encountered the subordinates of the sea burial disorderly phoenix monarch. These people were extremely strong. However, Lin Ling didn't even spare them a glance and slashed with his sword. Bang! Those martial artists were instantly killed by a single sword strike. Lin Ling continued forward while he pondered. The subordinates of the sea burial disorderly phoenix monarch aren't strong. Looks like the end of the mission is getting closer and closer. Even though he'd promised the general to complete the mission, when he thought of the enemy, he wanted to kill the enemy more than the sea burial disorderly phoenix monarch. As he continued forward, the battle ahead became even more intense. A large number of commanders were fighting a group of unknown warriors. Those warriors were presumably the subordinates of the sea burial disorderly phoenix monarch. When Lin Ling descended from the sky, the battlefield instantly fell silent. Countless people stared at Lin Ling, wondering what Lin Ling had come here for. Sir, there are 3 bodyguards protected by the commanders over there. Almost at the same time, several figures swam out from the dense aquatic plants at the bottom of the water. They were Lin Ling's scouts. Good, you've done well. I'll reward you when we return. Lin Ling immediately nodded. He held his sword and walked towards the battlefield like a god of death. The people on the battlefield were even more astonished. However, some people recognized Lin Ling and immediately asked, "Lin Ling, what are you doing here?" No matter how he looked at it, Lin Ling didn't seem to be here to help. "To kill the bodyguards." Lin Ling spoke bluntly, causing the battlefield to fall silent. Both sides had their mouths wide open. Lin Ling wasn't here to help, but to kill his own people? "How dare you kill your own people?" A soldier shouted angrily. He didn't believe Lin Ling's words at all. However, these words were very ironic. When they came to kill Lin Ling, they didn't treat Lin Ling as one of their own. Therefore, Lin Ling only sneered and continued forward. "I want to kill those 3 bodyguards. Whoever dares to stop me will be treated like a bandit." Ha! When everyone heard this, they were all stunned for a moment. "Haha, Lin Ling, are you stupid? Attacking your own people is a violation of military rules. You'll be beheaded." Ha! Soon, 3 figures walked out from the mountain range in the distance. Beside them were several commanders, protecting them as if they were under a curtain. Ironically, these 3 bodyguards weren't strong. They came to participate in the mission, just to join in the fun. Lin Ling continued forward and laughed disdainfully. "With so many people watching, I don't believe you dare to kill them." Ha! The 3 bodyguards weren't afraid of Lin Ling at all. One of them even patted his neck and said arrogantly. In fact, not only them, but even the other soldiers didn't think Lin Ling would dare to kill them. Even the people of the Sea Burial Chiefing Monarch thought so. Go to hell. Go. Unfortunately, how could Lin Ling not dare to kill them? He slashed out with his sword. It was as sharp as the blade of the god of death. Whoosh! The head of the bodyguard who patted his neck flew up. His eyes were wide open in disbelief. He died with remaining grievances. Because Lin Ling really dared to kill them. Moreover, he killed them in front of the army. Didn't this mean that he was on the same side as the Sea Burial Chiefing Monarch? When the other 2 bodyguards came to their senses, their bodies suddenly trembled, and they began to feel afraid. They quietly stepped back and wanted the commanders beside them to stop Lin Ling. However, those commanders didn't dare to do so, because Lin Ling seemed to be bathed in a sea of blood. It was too terrifying. "You sent people to kill me, because you thought I wouldn't dare to kill you. Now I'll tell you that you're too weak." Lin Ling didn't bother to talk nonsense with the remaining 2 bodyguards. His sword was like a dragon. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 heads flew up. The 2 bodyguards were dead. After that, Lin Ling left with his sword. He didn't participate in the battle at all. Seeing this, everyone was stunned. For a moment, they were so shocked that they couldn't say anything. Lin Ling was the only person in the martial gods battalion who had the courage to kill his own people instead of the enemy. "Sir, there are 2 bodyguards on this side." Chapter 2303. Looking down on military might, sir. There are 2 bodyguards on this side. After Lin Ling left, the other scouts also sent messages to Lin Ling, asking him to move in the direction they pointed. The battle there was even more intense. The army had encountered the experts of the Sea Burial Disorderly Phoenix King, and they couldn't stop them at all. The 2 bodyguards there were protected by several commanders. Their faces were extremely ugly as they roared. "You bunch of trash, why can't you kill the enemy?" Those commanders didn't dare to speak at all. Their faces were all pale. At this moment, the experts of the Sea Burial Disorderly Phoenix King arrived in a mighty manner and surrounded the hill they were on. This made the 2 bodyguards panic. They never expected that they would encounter the most powerful subordinates of the Sea Burial Disorderly Phoenix King, while just having fun in the blue water world. However, at this moment, a figure descended from the sky. It was Lin Ling. This person's sudden appearance surprised everyone, especially the 2 commanders. They looked at Lin Ling expectantly, as if they had seen a life-saving straw. As for the people of the Sea Burial Disorderly Phoenix King, they were facing a formidable enemy. "Kill them. If you can't kill them, I'll do it." However, when those commanders thought that their savior had arrived, Lin Ling coldly spat out a sentence, and he said it to the enemy. This time, they were all dumbfounded. "Lin Ling, you actually dared to collude with the enemy? When those commanders came to their senses, they were all furious. Well, you knew that we were going to be killed, but you didn't help us. You have violated the military rules of the martial god battalion. The two bodyguards roared in disbelief. Lin Ling didn't help them, but let the enemy kill them instead. This was too ridiculous. Hearing this, Lin Ling smiled. Why didn't you think of violating the military rules when you asked those commanders to kill me? He looked at those commanders again and said, at the beginning of the mission, you were eyeing me covetously and couldn't wait to kill me. Now you want me to help you? Do you think I, Lin Ling, am stupid? Or are you idiots? His voice was resolute and decisive, leaving those commanders unable to refute him. They all wanted Lin Ling to die. Now that they were in danger, they actually wanted Lin Ling to help them? This was obviously very ironic. Kill. The people of Sea Burial Chi Phoenix King also saw the situation, and immediately charged up the hill again. Gradually, many of the commanders fell. The faces of the two bodyguards became even paler. They continued to send the commanders to their deaths. In the end, they looked at Lin Ling with pleading eyes. Lin Ling, help us. Although it was embarrassing to beg Lin Ling, it was clear that his life was more important at this moment. Beg me. Lin Ling laughed sarcastically. Didn't you guys want to kill me? We were wrong. We failed to recognize Mount Tai. Please help us. The two bodyguards slapped their own faces. They never thought that there would be a day when they, who were high and mighty, would beg Lin Ling. If they knew this moment would come, they would have curried favor with Lin Ling long ago. One of the bodyguards saw Lin Ling's indifference and said bitterly, we promise you that we won't cause trouble for you anymore. As soon as he said this, the smile on Lin Ling's face became even more sarcastic. He turned around and left. Don't forget that I'm here to cause trouble for you. You don't have the right to cause trouble for me. These two bodyguards were about to die, but their tone was as if they were rewarding Lin Ling. It was as if not causing trouble for Lin Ling was an honor for Lin Ling. Laughable, lamentable. As they watched Lin Ling leave, the two bodyguards were disheartened. They kept shouting for Lin Ling to help. But what greeted them was the enemy's attack. Before they died, they only had deep regret. This was because they should have stayed by the general's side. This battle of life and death was not suitable for them. As for wanting to kill Lin Ling, they were simply overestimating themselves. After that, the scouts found the other bodyguards. In the end, they were all killed by Lin Ling. There was only one left. It was Wu Yongqing. Where he was, that was the place where the senior commanders gathered. In response, Lin Ling did not hesitate. He raised his sword and killed his way to them. Wu Yongqing and Senior Commander Qian Xian were people he had to kill. Even if Lin Ling did not complete the mission, it did not matter. This was also to establish the military's prestige. Even if it was not for himself, Lin Ling had to do it for the soldiers who believed in him. Senior Commander Lin Ling is crazy. He is killing his own people. No way, no one stopped him. Other than the senior commanders, who can stop him? I heard that even Senior Commander Diba died in Lin Ling's hands. The entire Blue Water world was filled with surprised voices. Without a doubt, Lin Ling had stirred up a storm of blood. His fame had long surpassed that of Sea Burial Disorderly Phoenix King. However, many people did not believe that Lin Ling could succeed. This was because Wu Yongqing was in the senior commander's camp. Lin Ling could defeat Senior Commander Diba, but could he face a world king powerhouse? This was obviously impossible. As for those who had no ill intentions towards Lin Ling from the beginning, at this moment, they admired Lin Ling's calmness. Whoever killed him, Lin Ling would kill. It was that simple. As for the mission, military rules, and so on, everything was meaningless. At this moment, in an ancient ruin in the Blue Water world, a large number of powerhouses had gathered. They were preparing to give Sea Burial Disorderly Phoenix King a fatal blow. However, the news that Lin Ling wanted to kill Wu Yongqing had spread. Nonsense, the army is dispatched to suppress bandits. He is killing his own people. This is contempt for the military's prestige. He is just deliberately mystifying. I don't believe he dares to come. Many senior commanders sneered when they received the news. As for Senior Commander Huang Qi, Ling Hulei, and the others, they smiled bitterly. Lin Ling did not make a move, but once he did, the martial god camp would be shaken. Then they looked at the corner of the ancient city wall. A young man stood there, and it was Wu Yongqing. At this moment, he had a cold smile on his face, and was even drinking wine. He didn't believe that Lin Ling could kill him. That trash. Senior Commander Huang Qi and the others cursed. Wu Yongqing was participating in the mission, but he was not here to suppress bandits. He was simply here to cause trouble. However, he was the general's personal guard, so not many people dared to say anything about him. The scout camp is here. At this time, someone shouted, causing the entire ancient ruin to fall silent. Outside the ruined city walls, many soldiers were staring into the distance. A tornado had formed in the distance. In the roaring waves, a large number of people flew over. They were from the scout camp. The person in the lead was wearing a blue robe and holding an ancient sword. He looked like he was going to conquer the world. He was Lin Ling. Is he really here? In the distant ruins, Senior Commander Qian Xian stood there coldly. He did not expect Lin Ling to dare to come. In this way, Lin Ling had violated the military rules. He could also attack Lin Ling. Moreover, he had attacked the general's personal guard. He could not help but wonder if Lin Ling had gone crazy. Stop right there. Soon, the waves exploded and the sound waves spread. Some soldiers shouted angrily at Lin Ling. Obviously, there were more people who did not give face to Lin Ling. After all, there were many senior commanders who had the same status as Lin Ling. Moreover, the person Lin Ling wanted to kill was the general's personal guard. From a certain point of view, he had a higher status than Lin Ling. Slap him. However, on the scout camp side, Luo Hua, Flowing Water, and the others shouted sternly as if they were the most loyal subordinates. Chapter 2304. Fighting the Heavens and Earth. How arrogant, that is Great Commander Windhorn's man. There was no one who wasn't shocked by this scene. Lin Ling bullying a commander was normal, but to even dare to bully a great commander's man, that was abnormal. His actions were going to offend a lot of grand commanders. How dare you touch my man? Sure enough, on the other side of the ancient ruins, an old man was enraged. He was like an angry lion. The axe in his hand was pointed forward. This person was a first-stage world king powerhouse. In his anger, waves of water exploded in all directions. Besides him, the other great commanders also narrowed their eyes, their expressions cold. They didn't think that Lin Ling would be so arrogant. Of course, they didn't act rashly. After all, they knew that Lin Ling had been invited by the great general. Let him come. But at this time, a smiling voice suddenly sounded. It was Great Commander Qian Xian. In fact, Great Commander Qian Xian wished that Lin Ling could kill his way over, so he wouldn't stop Lin Ling. After all, if he did, he wouldn't be able to catch Lin Ling's weakness. Seeing Great Commander Qian Xian speak, the army immediately opened a path for the scout battalion to walk over. From afar, the mountain was covered with armored soldiers. They were orderly and imposing, but there was one troop that stood out from the rest. They were fearless. This scene was extremely shocking. The surroundings gradually calmed down. Only the sound of flowing water could be heard. It was extremely depressing. Lin Ling, you want to kill Wu Yongqing? Do you know that this is against the military rules? If so, I can kill you. On a city wall, Great Commander Qian Xian wore blue armor. His blue cape fluttered like water. He looked like a war god, his eyes filled with majesty. Hearing those words, Commander Huang Qi and the others let out cold and indifferent voices. Great Commander Qian Xian, I dare you to kill Lin Ling. Lin Ling, don't be impulsive. They owed Lin Ling a favor, so naturally, they would help Lin Ling. However, they also felt that Lin Ling's actions were too crazy. Commander Huang Qi, Lin Ling has disregarded military rules. Could it be that we can't kill him? Qian Xian sneered. Many people nodded in agreement. They also thought that Lin Ling was too arrogant. Such words undoubtedly made it difficult for Commander Huang Qi and the others to refute. They could only look at Lin Ling. Lin Ling looked cold. He stopped and nodded at Commander Huang Qi. Then he looked at Commander Qian Xian and said, When I came to kill Wu Yongqing, you said I disobeyed the rules. Why didn't you say he disobeyed the rules when he came to kill me? He came to kill you. Was that even possible? What kind of strength does he have? And what kind of strength do you have? This point is obvious to all. Moreover, he is only a personal guard of the great general. He has no power or influence. What can he use to kill you? I think you're trying to put a big hat on Wu Yongqing. Commander Qianxian smiled faintly when he heard that. At this moment, he would definitely not admit the truth. Commander Qianxian is right. Lin Ling is too cruel. He kills whoever he wants. Does he think the Martial God Barracks is his home? The Martial God Barracks is a sacred and dignified barracks. Lin Ling is nothing. The other commanders snorted coldly. Some of them were against Lin Ling. Some of them were just bystanders. However, regardless of their position, they were infuriated by Lin Ling's arrogance. They did not want a newcomer to step on their heads. In the ruins, a young man who was drinking lazily walked out. Lord Lin Ling, you're so impressive. The mission to suppress the bandits has begun. Instead of suppressing the bandits, you came to kill me. Haha, the Martial God Barracks is your home. You can kill whoever you want. Kill. He and Commander Qianxian had sent people to kill Lin Ling. However, none of them admitted it. Instead, they slandered Lin Ling for being cruel and merciless. Despicable. You dare to do it, but you don't dare to admit it. What kind of martial arts are you talking about? Luo Hua Lushui and the others were livid. They had not expected the other party to be so cunning. Justice is in everyone's heart. In fact, everyone knows whether you sent people to kill me or not. Lin Ling's expression did not change in the face of Qianxian and the others' slander. Instead, he looked at the soldiers around him. Many of them lowered their heads. Obviously, they were guilty. How could they not know that the two commanders wanted to kill Lin Ling? However, they did not dare to say it out loud. The martial gods' camp is very large. It is impossible for me to get everyone to speak for me. However, my camp supports me, and that is enough. It is also because you almost destroyed my camp in order to kill me that I have decided to pay you a visit today. Lin Ling withdrew his gaze and said indifferently, "What do you want?" One of the commanders asked with a frown. "What do I want?" Hearing this, Lin Ling sneered. Then he drew out his sword and said, "The two of them must die. Anyone who tries to stop me will be my enemy." Kill. The sword was drawn with an imposing aura. It was arrogant and overbearing. The hearts of countless soldiers on the battlefield trembled subconsciously. This was the demeanor of a general. Those who offend me will be killed no matter how far away they are. Bold, wild, tyrannical, fearless. At this moment, many soldiers were envious of the scouts. They also wanted to have a commander who dared to take responsibility for his actions. As for the commanders, they fell silent. Although they were still shocked by Lin Ling's arrogance, they knew that Commander Qianxian and the others had indeed sent people to kill Lin Ling. Therefore, they would let them deal with it themselves. Lin Ling, do you think you can kill us? Let me tell you, with me here, you won't be able to kill Wu Yongqing. Commander Qianxian sneered. In fact, he admired Lin Ling very much. He dared to take responsibility for his actions, and his cultivation speed was extremely fast. He was an extremely rare genius at the martial god realm. If it weren't for the fact that they were on opposing sides, he would have liked to be friends with Lin Ling. Unfortunately, he would never be friends with Lin Ling. You're quite strong, but you're still too young to face a world king. If you want to fight, I'll accompany you. Boom! Rumble! At this moment, 100% of realm essence floated out from Commander Qianxian's body, forming a vacuum in the water. As his strength erupted, many soldiers narrowed their eyes. It seemed that Lin Ling wasn't going to let this go. The battle between the commanders was about to begin. They could only look up to this level of battle. However, they could see whether Commander Lin Ling or Commander Qianxian was stronger. Lin Ling will help you. Yes, Commander Huang Qi and the others walked out when they saw that the battle was about to break out. They couldn't watch Lin Ling die in the hands of Commander Qianxian. Army move out. Yes, the army that followed them also moved out to support Lin Ling. At this moment, the entire battlefield seemed to be divided into three camps. One side belonged to Lin Ling, One side belonged to Commander Qian Xian, and one side was a bystander. Chapter 2305. The powerful Grand Commander Qian Xian. Even the enemy soldiers in the distance frowned. They even thought that this was a ploy by the martial god battalion to lure them in. Seeing the support of the army around him, Lin Ling's heart warmed. He looked at Grand Commander Huang Qi and said, "Thank you all for your help, but there's no need. This is a grudge between me and them. I wish to resolve it myself. After all, this grudge is not only between me and them, but also between my scout battalion." Hearing this, Grand Commander Huang Qi and the others' complexions changed. But they also knew how stubborn Lin Ling was. Thus, they could only sigh in their hearts. Lin Ling, he had a lofty and unyielding character. As for the surrounding army, many of them admired Lin Ling's pride. This was because Lin Ling didn't seek help from others. To fight Grand Commander Qian Xian by himself, who could do such a thing? After all, although Lin Ling was also a Grand Commander, everyone knew that Lin Ling was only a rising star. As for Grand Commander Qian Xian, he was already famous in the martial god battalion. The two of them weren't on the same level. As for the scout battalion, they were all excited. Before this, they had protected Lin Ling with falling flowers and flowing water, and had nearly died. But now, Lin Ling was going to seek justice for them. "Haha, you have courage. But, do you think you can defeat me?" Grand Commander Qian Xian narrowed his eyes as he stared at Lin Ling. In truth, he didn't think that Lin Ling would be so arrogant. For the sake of his subordinates, for the sake of venting his anger, Lin Ling dared to challenge him. His courage was good, but in the martial god world, strength was everything. Currently, Lin Ling wasn't even at the World King realm. He wanted to see just how Lin Ling would kill him. Since that's the case, then let's cut the crap and fight. Grand Commander Qian Xian shouted out loud. World essence wrapped around him like dragons. Some people could even see that in the distant infinite worlds, the strength of a world was drawn out by him. Drawing out the strength of a world, this was the strength of a world king powerhouse. Die! Commander Qian Xian did not hold back. His destructive realm origin turned into an ancient pagoda and pressed down on Lin Ling. He didn't hold back at all. Great Sorrow Golden Cloud Tower. Many Grand Commanders narrowed their eyes when they saw that. That was a second-grade low-origin martial skill. If Grand Commander Qian Xian used it, its power would reach 120% of his origin energy. It could be said that this move was the difference between a commander and a senior commander. Rumble. In the water, the terrifying pagoda descended from the sky, creating a kind of illusion. It was as if this pagoda could only be collided and could not be avoided. Lin Ling's pupils constricted. In fact, he knew that he was no match for Qian Xianshan. However, he still had a glimmer of hope. However, this was also the first time Lin Ling had fought a World King powerhouse since arriving at Martial God World. Even Lin Ling was surprised. He didn't think that he would fight a World King powerhouse so soon. Of course, Lin Ling could have avoided this battle, but he didn't. This was because Grand Commander Qian Xian had tried to harm him time and time again. This time, his entire army had nearly been annihilated. Thus, if Lin Ling continued to endure, then his heart of martial arts would be flawed. Since he couldn't endure, then he would fight with his back to the river. He would fight with his life on the line. Rumble. In the sky, a brilliant heavenly might came crashing down. Before it even landed, Lin Ling's surroundings were sucked dry. The water evaporated, forming a vacuum. 120% world origin energy. And it surpassed the attack of an ordinary 120% world origin energy. This was Grand Commander Qian Xian's method. Lin Ling, hurry up and avoid it. Run! In the distance, Great Commander Huang Qi and the others shouted out. As for the scout camp, although they didn't shout out, the worry in their eyes was obvious. The Martial Emperor realm and the World King realm was a great divide. Could Lord Lin Ling win? Rumble. The Death Pagoda in the sky came closer and closer. But Lin Ling remained indifferent. His backbone and military strength are admirable. Unfortunately, his strength is a bit too weak. The Grand Commanders shook their heads. In truth, they also knew why Lin Ling didn't fear this battle. This was because a soldier had the aura of a soldier. If he didn't fight back when others tried to bully him, then he was a coward. Let alone Lin Ling. Even the scouts couldn't raise their heads in front of the martial god battalion. In truth, this was also a battle of dignity. And at this time Lin Ling finally moved. He grasped his sword with both hands, and ruthlessly slashed down at the pagoda in the sky. If he moved a moment earlier, his momentum wouldn't be enough. If he moved a moment later, his life would be in danger. Now was the best time. Mount Tai came crashing down. At this moment, the unceasingly condensed strength erupted from the tyrannical Song sword. Bang! The pagoda and sword collided. Ripples of water exploded outwards, as if two worlds were colliding. The terrifying strength caused many soldiers to fly backwards, their armors cracking. This was a collision between World King powerhouses. The deterrence was truly terrifying. He blocked it. Then, many people stared at the center of the ruins in horror. There, the youth grasped his sword with both hands, as if he wanted to split apart the world of water. His head touched the heavens, his feet stepped on the ground, and he soared into the skies, fighting all under the heavens. How fierce! He actually blocked 100% of my world essence attack. Lord Lin Ling was only a new recruit not too long ago. In the Battle of the Divine List, he only erupted with 60% of his world essence. Now he has 100% of his world essence. Many soldiers cried out in alarm. Lin Ling's cultivation speed was too monstrous. Grand Commander Qianxian narrowed his eyes. In truth, when he heard that Lin Ling had defeated the tyrannical Earth Commander, he thought it was just an accident. After all, the tyrannical Earth Commander was able to defeat a first-stage World King. But now, he finally knew that Lin Ling did indeed have the ability to defeat the tyrannical Earth Commander. This Lin Ling was truly terrifying. If he was given more time, he could absolutely kill the tyrannical Earth Commander. Thus, Lin Ling had to be killed. You have some skill. Unfortunately, blocking this move will require you to use your full strength. I want to see just how you block it. Grand Commander Qianxian angrily shouted. His entire body shined with a golden light, as if he were a golden god of war. He muttered to himself, the power of Qianli world, only I can use it. If gods block me, I will kill gods. If Buddhas block me, I will destroy Buddhas. Golden Moon Dragon Dance. His innate talent had actually completely fused with Jie Yuan. Although he hadn't found a suitable treasure, and hadn't cultivated many Jie Yuan martial arts, with the advantage of his innate talent fusion, there were few who could match him among the senior commanders. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The cloud-like power of the sun and moon danced in the air from Grand Commander Qianxuan's hands, forming countless dragon phantoms. Each one was 100 meters long, and they were all golden in color. These dragons were extremely fast, dancing in the air. It was a startling sight. As for Grand Commander Qianxuan's arms, they were like two dragons, domineering over everything. Lin Ling's pupils shrank. Grand Commander Qianxian was truly strong. His left eye could already see him. Grand Commander Qianxian was at the first level of the World King realm. Compared to an ordinary World King, his talent had already fused with his world essence. It was a metal attribute talent. As for the metal attribute, it was indestructible. Not only was its attack swift and fierce, but its speed was also extremely fast. Fierce, he was indeed an extremely difficult opponent to deal with. So fast. At this time, Lin Ling's pupils shrank. In front of him, a giant golden dragon roared as it rushed towards him. This dragon seemed as if it had been summoned from the home of dragons. Most importantly, its speed was extremely fast, comparable to his dragon painting finishing touch. Dragon painting finishing touch. Chapter 2306. Narrowing the Gap. Whoosh. When the sword appeared, the draconic energy also roared. Sharp and fierce world essence transformed into a sword, colliding with the golden divine dragon. Clang! What was surprising was that the sound of the sword colliding with the golden dragon was actually the sound of metal colliding. They were evenly matched. Lin Ling isn't weak either. Seeing this scene, many soldiers secretly clenched their fists. They thought that Lin Ling was not his match at all. But who would have thought that Lin Ling would actually exchange 2 moves? However, the commanders were shaking their heads. Lin Ling had risked his life to block the Golden Moon Dragon Dance. What about the remaining Golden Moon Dragon Dance? Lin Ling simply couldn't block it. Weak. Commander Qianxian also had the same thought. After he spoke, he waved his hands. Roar. 100 dragons roared, and a terrifying whirlpool was stirred up at the bottom of the water. Above the heads of countless soldiers, countless golden dragons filled the sky and danced rapidly. That speed was the speed of a world. The so-called speed of a realm meant that one could traverse a realm in a single breath. Martial artists who have fused their innate talent with their realm essence are indeed powerful. Seeing this, Lin Ling's expression became even colder. He held his sword to block, but it was too fast. He couldn't block it. Puff. One of the dragons pierced through his body, causing him to spit out blood. Then the second and third lines appeared. It was unstoppable. Haha, is this all you've got? When Commander Qianxian saw this, he sneered. Wu Yongqing also laughed sinisterly. He felt that Lin Ling coming to kill him was the biggest mistake of his life. Boom. Boom. Under everyone's gaze, Lin Ling was completely entangled by millions of golden dragons. Those golden dragons seemed to represent the heavenly dragon star, making it difficult for anyone to stop them. As time passed, the golden dragon began to fly in the sky. The earth was in chaos. Mud spread out, blocking all sight. Is he dead? The crowd made a sound, making the bottom of the water even more silent. However, at this moment the mud finally dissipated. A blue-robed man was still standing there with a sword pointed at Qianxian from afar. Lin Ling was not dead. What? Everyone's hearts immediately thundered. Lin Ling was too tenacious. Even Commander Qianxian frowned. This was beyond his expectation. He said indifferently, "It seems that I have underestimated your defensive power." In reality, he had indeed underestimated Lin Ling's physical strength. The current god-devil body was no longer the same as before. Its defense was so strong that it could block a large amount of realm essence. One of the 3 great absolutes of the past had been restored. Although Lin Ling had blocked the attack of the golden dragons, he had obviously suffered heavy injuries. However, the battle intent in his eyes had become even more frenzied. It seemed like he had challenged Commander Qianxian recklessly, but the truth was he had his own plans. Previously, he had swallowed many fish pearls and wanted to break through in one go. However, he was interrupted by the Earth Tyrant Commander. Therefore, if he wanted to continue breaking through, he needed external help. And Commander Qianxian was that external force. After the terrifying impact of the realm essence, Lin Ling sensed that the source of corporeal force in his dantian was spinning crazily. The amount of realm essence that was being converted had also increased. However, it was still not enough. It was still lacking. Until now, you still don't understand the gap between you and me? Commander Qianxian continued to stare at Lin Ling. Although he was surprised by Lin Ling's strength, he was not worried. There is a gap between us, but it will gradually decrease, Lin Ling said indifferently, and he was extremely confident. Haha, Commander Qianxian could not help but laugh. You are as weak as an old man, and you say that the gap between us will decrease? What a joke. Is that so? Lin Ling did not comment. However, no one believed his words at all. Many people also thought that Lin Ling was as weak as an old man at the moment. Actually, I admire you. Unfortunately, we are on different sides. Therefore, I will still kill you. However, you are too weak to threaten me. Therefore, it is time to end this. Commander Qianxian stretched out his right hand. In his palm, the entire world seemed to be under his control. Lin Ling was the representative of miracles. However, no miracles could be created in front of him. However, just as he was about to attack, the ground suddenly shook. A sense of danger arose spontaneously. It was a strange feeling, but Qianxian believed it without a doubt. Oh no! Commander Qianxian shouted angrily as he looked around. His panicked look made many people's expressions change drastically. What is going on? Boom! At the same time the ground shook. A huge shockwave rushed up from the ground and destroyed everything in its path. This was the Earth Tyrant shocking the heavens. This move was known for its stealth. Even Commander Qian Xianshen did not notice it. Moreover, he sensed that the shockwave was powerful enough to injure him. Of course, in the past, Commander Di Ba had used this move to kill a first-stage world king. Therefore, although Commander Qian Xianshen was stronger, it was impossible for him to not be afraid of this move. However, even though he retreated quickly, it was already too late. A terrifying shockwave surged into the sky, shattering his blue armor. He roared, and a golden dragon appeared around him, circling around him. Borrowing the force of the circling, he quickly retreated, dodging all of the shockwave's attacks. After avoiding the danger, Commander Qian Xianshen was furious. He had underestimated Lin Ling. It's not over yet. However, Lin Ling shook his head and said, "Sure enough, just as Commander Qian Xianshen dodged the first wave of attack, the second wave of light shot up to the sky behind him. The armor behind Commander Qian Xianshen cracked at this moment. I have said that the gap between us is narrowing. Do you understand now?" Lin Ling's voice sounded again. Boom! The third wave of light shot up to the sky. It was a ghastly sight. Although Commander Qian Xianshen dodged this wave of attack by luck, it was obvious that he was severely injured. Most importantly, the blue armor that he was so proud of was now completely cracked open. He floated in the water, and his face was gloomy. He had thought that Lin Ling was an ant to a dying old man. However, he had not expected that Lin Ling's attack could still affect him, and even humiliate him. Was this the ant that he had thought of? "You destroyed my armor," Commander Qian Xianshen said in a low voice. This was the first time that he had been injured by a junior, who was at the martial emperor realm. "I am just returning the favor. In fact, I just want to remind you that you should not underestimate me." On the ground, Lin Ling lifted up his head and said indifferently, "So powerful. I thought that Lord Lin Ling would not be able to fight back. In the end, he managed to strike back fiercely." "That's right. That is Commander Di Ba's unique skill. Lin Ling's skill is more powerful than Commander Di Ba's. I am afraid that only Lin Ling can injure a world king when he is at the martial emperor realm." Without a doubt, the surrounding crowd was shocked. Chapter 2307. Profound Sword Records 4th Level, Heart Flute Sword Form. One had to know that a Grand Commander was not a commander. Every single one of them was truly powerful, and their reputation was well-deserved. Everyone knew that Lin Ling had become a senior commander because the Martial God Battalion valued his potential. It did not mean that Lin Ling had the strength of a senior commander. However, Lin Ling had managed to injure Qiang Xuanshen during the battle. Who wouldn't be shocked by this? Since the establishment of the Martial God Battalion, he is the second-stage martial emperor to injure a Stage 1 world king. The senior commanders mumbled to themselves. In the records of the Martial God Battalion, only one person had achieved such a feat. It was Master Huang Fui Dao. Now this miracle that had disappeared in history had appeared once again. It seems like the gap between us has narrowed. However, I will not underestimate you anymore. Senior Commander Qian Xianshen tore apart the broken armor and raised his right hand. Thousands of golden dragons circled in his palm. Gradually, a golden sun appeared and grew bigger. Azure Cloud God Break. Seeing the terrifying sun, many commanders sucked in a breath of cold air. They didn't expect that Qian Xianshen would use his trump card against Lin Ling. This Azure Cloud God Break was Qian Xianshen's origin martial art. It had reached the first rank of the second grade. It could not be underestimated. This time, Lin Ling should not be able to block it. Lin Ling used all his strength before, but he only injured Qian Xianshen. Now Qian Xianshen will not let him go. Many people said solemnly, "Lin Ling, your previous attack was indeed powerful. Unfortunately, it did not kill me. Now you have no chance." As the sun in his palm grew bigger, Qian Xianshen said confidently, "The reason why I did not kill you is because I want you to use a stronger attack." Lin Ling looked at the blazing sun and said faintly, "Haha, you're still so arrogant. Let's see how you're going to block my stronger attack." Commander Qian Xian was still preparing the blazing sun. This was an attack that required 15% of the world origin energy. He wanted to kill it with one strike. Moreover, he believed that Lin Ling would not run away. Since Lin Ling had come, he would definitely want to fight to the end. At this moment, Lin Ling's expression was extremely solemn. However, he knew that he couldn't avoid it. After all, he had come here to fight to the death. If I die here, it means that this is all I am. Lin Ling sheathed his sword, closed his eyes, and stood there quietly. What is he doing? Everyone was surprised. Facing the powerful attack of Qian Xianshen, Lin Ling actually closed his eyes? At this moment, even the commanders couldn't understand what Lin Ling was doing. There's no way he can make up for the difference in cultivation level. I think he's given up. Someone suddenly said, making even more people agree. It was because this was the only explanation. Wu Yongqing smiled and drank his wine. He also thought that Lin Ling had given up. However, soon he frowned. This was because he felt that Lin Ling's body was becoming illusory. An indescribable energy quietly spread out. Hurry up and attack. Lin Ling is comprehending. Wu Yongqing shouted anxiously. As soon as his words fell, everyone was stunned. Facing a World King realm expert, Lin Ling was comprehending? He was crazy. Comprehending in front of me? Commander Qian Xian's eyes narrowed. He already knew that Lin Ling was a monstrous genius. Now that he saw it, he knew how monstrous Lin Ling was. After all, Lin Ling could be killed by him at any time. However, Lin Ling still had the mood to comprehend. Moreover, the comprehension of the martial emperor realm usually took several years. How could there be sudden enlightenment? Die. At that moment, the giant sun in his hand became bigger and bigger. A destructive aura burst out. It was a world. That's right. He had completely extracted the power of a world. Even millions of stars appeared above his head, proving the terrifying power of his world. Rumble. The power of that realm mercilessly blasted towards Lin Ling. Attack. At that moment, Commander Huang Qi stepped forward. He wanted to help Lin Ling. However, as soon as he moved, an arm pulled him back. It was Ling Hulei. Ling Hulei said with a serious face, "Don't forget that Lin Ling once said something that helped you break through. Therefore Lin Ling is not a fool. Since he dares to challenge Qian Xian today, he must have his own plans." But what if we're wrong? Commander Huang Qi frowned. Ling Hulei's face changed. He sighed and said, "Then we'll lose the bet. However, I believe that Lin Ling doesn't want us to participate, because he's gambling with his life." Hearing this, Commander Huang Qi finally stopped in his tracks. Breaking heart and parting emotions, breaking obsession, combining forms and returning to origin, righteous view with dust, evil nature concentration, spirit and form preservation. At that moment Lin Ling closed his eyes. An old man appeared in his mind. It was a carefree old man. He was the Sword Emperor from the Sword World. The 4th level of the Black Sword record, the heart of the flute sword. In fact, Lin Ling came to challenge Qian Xianshen today, not only to break through to the next level, but also to increase the power of the world origin martial arts. Sometimes martial artists needed pressure. Only when the pressure was close to them could they unleash their full potential. Since Lin Ling came to the martial god realm, he had not encountered any great danger. Therefore, he knew that if things went too smoothly, it would be detrimental to his martial path. The enlightenment this time made him realize that a swordsman was upright and outspoken. However, a soft sword could also kill enemies. The combination of hardness and softness was the sword of the sword world. Lin Ling's left eye seemed to be able to see the primordial wilderness and the birth of the profound sword record. When a swordsman practices the sword, what they pursue is sharpness, speed, and a fatal strike. But in reality, the sword has thousands of forms, and the soft sword is also one of them. It's just that its power is too weak, so it's abandoned by people. At least in Lin Ling's world, Lin Ling had never heard of anyone cultivating the soft sword. But now, he was going to cultivate. The heart of the flute sword form could be both civil and martial, both hard and soft. While he was comprehending, the huge blazing sun was getting closer and closer. Even in the army below, many people were shouting. In their opinion, even if Lin Ling counterattacked or retreated now, it was already too late. As for Commander Qian Xianshen, he stared straight ahead. He was very nervous. He would not be at ease until he saw Lin Ling die. because he knew that Lin Ling could rise from the ashes. However, gradually, he smiled because the blazing sun that represented the power of a world had enveloped Lin Ling. Lin Ling was powerless to reverse the situation. No. On the scout camp's side, everyone shouted. Could it be that Lin Ling challenging Qian Xianxin was a mistake? No one saw that Lin Ling had finally attacked. However, his sword was very slow, and it even seemed to be powerless. However, this sword still slashed forward. Although it seemed like he was overestimating himself, it carried Lin Ling's determination. A swordsman could be both hard and soft. Chi-chi. When the huge sword collided with the huge blazing sun, an ear-piercing sound rang out. The terrifying power caused Lin Ling's body to tremble, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. However, his expression did not change, and the sword still slashed down. Chapter 2308. The ultimate sword Dao. But right at this moment, something strange happened. The sword seemed slow, but it produced a shockwave, an extremely terrifying shockwave. The sword slowly slashed down, but the huge blazing sun began to crack. Dripping water penetrates stone, using softness to overcome hardness. The shockwave lingered on the ancient sword, making it seem like a saw, cutting through everything. No one saw this scene. Everyone could only see the vast power of a world in the sky, ancient and vast, surging towards the sun like a flood, erasing Lin Ling. At this moment, everyone thought that Lin Ling was dead for sure. But at this moment, the huge sun stopped moving forward. At the same time, a crack appeared on the dazzling sun. It was small at first, but it gradually grew bigger. Boom! In just a moment, under countless gazes, the sun was forcibly torn apart. It felt like it was being cut apart by a saw. At this moment, the universe began to chant. The light of the gods floated in the sky, causing the bottom of the water to be colorful. This light was the light of chaos. It was said that this was the most ancient light in the myriad of worlds. The great realm of Tao. Countless eyes stared at the holy light. Someone let out a shocked cry. The eyes of the commanders were filled with disbelief. And amidst the sputtering power, Lin Ling's body appeared. His body was covered in wounds and blood, but his mouth was curved into a proud smile. His sword Dao had improved once again. Moreover, with the help of the Black Sword record, he had finally comprehended the ultimate sword Dao. The so-called ultimate sword Dao was a type of grand Dao. It came from the chaos of the myriad of worlds, and it was the end of the sword Dao. It was divided into the fundamental realm, the intricate realm, the true meaning of Dao, the domain of Dao, and the perfect Dao. The fundamental realm was the sword Dao that Lin Ling had cultivated in the rainforest's sacred ground. It was vast and varied, including all the sword Daos of that world. But in the end, it was only a world, and could not be considered a grand Dao. But now, Lin Ling had comprehended the arcane subtlety. This was the great Dao of primordial chaos, a Dao of the sword that transcended this world. This type of cultivation level didn't seem lower than realm essence, but it extracted the mysterious power of the universe's primal chaos. That was why, compared to realm essence, it was even more powerful. It was because the power it used was primal chaos power. The gap has narrowed again. Amidst the silence, Lin Ling's voice floated out. Although it sounded so powerless, it was also so resolute. That's right, the gap between him and Commander Qian Xian was getting smaller and smaller. At this time, everyone realized that Lin Ling challenging the Qian profound god was not reckless, nor was it overestimating his own abilities. Lin Ling wanted to use the Qian profound god to increase his own strength. And now, Lin Ling's strength had indeed increased greatly. What a freak! I've seen people who use death to temper their martial arts. However, he's the only person I know who dares to challenge someone who's several levels lower than him. Falling flowers, flowing water, and the others were shocked. They finally knew why Lin Ling was able to surpass them. As for Commander Qian Xian, he remained silent and stared at Lin Ling. In fact, he hadn't underestimated Lin Ling since the beginning of the battle. Even so, he realized that he had underestimated Lin Ling's potential. Lin Ling had used his attack to comprehend the great Dao realm. His future was limitless. The battle isn't over yet. Commander Qian Xian took a deep breath and said, I'm afraid of your talent. That's why I want to kill you even more. Now that you're exhausted, let's see how long you can last. Bang! After saying that, his eyes were filled with madness. He no longer treated Lin Ling as a junior, but as an opponent of the same level. Bang! 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 At the same time, the world essence around him began to burn, as if it were an invisible flame of anger. In the underwater skies, monstrous waves began to rise up. A stifling feeling rose up in everyone's heart, as if a great calamity was approaching. Burning world essence. He's crazy. He's gone crazy. After burning his world essence, his life is in danger. Moreover, his cultivation boundary will greatly fall. Is he throwing caution to the wind? Sensing the terrifying fluctuations of world essence, all of the great commanders gasped in horror. Burning world essence was a unique ability of a world king powerhouse. Those who burned their world essence could double their strength, but this was also burning their life force. They never imagined that in order to deal with Lin Ling, Commander Qian Xian would actually risk his life. And this also proved that although Lin Ling hadn't reached the World King realm, his potential was enough to cause Qian Xian God to dread. Burning world essence. At this time Lin Ling's mind buzzed. Before, he had blocked the blazing sun of that world. Although it seemed easy, the truth was that it wasn't simple at all. He had already been wounded, and now he had to fight with Qian Xian God, who was burning his world essence. It could be said that Qian Xian God's strength had reached the second level of the World King realm. Lin Ling, I admire you. Moreover, I don't want to kill you because you are a true character. Unfortunately, our standpoints are different, so we can only be enemies for the rest of our lives. Invisible flames of anger twined around Qian Xian God. His body was covered in golden flames, and even his appearance couldn't be seen. One could only see a pair of cold, emotionless eyes. However, his words were from the bottom of his heart. He truly admired Lin Ling. From the start until now, he had always admired Lin Ling. Thank you. Lin Ling looked up lightly saying, Unfortunately, you still have to die. I hope you don't resent me. The golden figure that was like a god king walked out, step by step. People who walk different paths cannot make plans together. I won't resent you. Lin Ling also raised the sword in his hand. The flames of battle were still burning in his eyes. However, you may not be able to kill me. Arrogant words, take this. Commander Qian Xian God pointed out a finger. His world essence formed a giant golden torrent that attacked Lin Ling. The world essence that erupted this time was obviously more terrifying than before. Qian Xian God, you are burning your world essence against a junior. You are despicable. Commander Huang Qi and the others shouted angrily. They were about to attack. This is a battle between me and him. No one is allowed to interfere. However, Lin Ling quickly stopped them. He was still bold, and wasn't afraid of a battle. Commander Huang Qi and the others gritted their teeth and retreated. As expected of Lin Ling, Qian Xian God couldn't help but praise and nod. Rumble. The golden torrent was unstoppable, destroying all the liquid. Even the soldiers below were affected by the powerful force and died directly. However, Qian Xian God didn't care about those ants. He only had eyes for Lin Ling. What was more surprising was that his eyes were filled with hatred and pity. He had received an order from Tating Commandery to kill Lin Ling at all costs. Otherwise, he would become a sinner of Tating Commandery. Chapter 2309. Never give in. In fact, burning his realm essence was also a kind of compensation for Lin Ling. If Lin Ling died, he could complete his mission. However, Qian Xian Shun might also die. Even if he didn't die, his cultivation would drop greatly. And he felt that all of this was worth it. To be able to meet such an opponent in one's life, what was there to regret? Shao Xi in sword form, break for me. Facing the huge golden torrent, Lin Ling's long hair fluttered in the wind. He raised his sword and instantly slashed out 200 million times. Clang! However, the golden torrent had absorbed the energy of the myriad worlds, and was recovering rapidly. Although Lin Ling's ultimate sword Dao had reached the minute subtlety realm, he had only just comprehended it. Moreover, he was severely injured. Naturally, he would not be able to withstand it. Crack! The sword was unable to cut through the golden torrent. It could only create a huge gap in the golden torrent. Retreat! Lin Ling roared angrily. At this moment he could only retreat. It was the most intense battle he had ever fought since he had arrived at the martial god realm. And the most miserable battle he had ever fought. Boom! Although Lin Ling dodged very quickly, his left arm was still struck by the golden torrent. His left arm instantly turned into ashes. Lin Ling! My lord! Seeing this, many people who knew Lin Ling shouted in worry. I can still fight. However, Lin Ling's resolute voice floated out from the bottom of the water, causing Grand Commander Huang Qi and the others to sigh. Lin Ling was just too stubborn. Even if he died, he wouldn't let them help. Lin Ling, good job. Qian Xianshan stared at Lin Ling and praised him once again. It was his honor to meet such an opponent in his life. Again, Qian Xianshan also went all out, burning even more realm essence, attacking Lin Ling. Good timing. Lin Ling shouted boldly. He also sensed Qian Xuanshan's intention. He had to admit that he was wrong to blame this commander. Although this person was determined to kill him, he was magnanimous and was a true man. Rumble. The golden torrent once again rushed towards Lin Ling. Lin Ling spat out a mouthful of blood, and many of his bones were broken. Moreover, this was not from the direct impact of the golden torrent. Otherwise, his soul would have long since dispersed into nothingness. Again, Qian Xianshan seemed to have gone crazy. He burned his realm essence without any regard for his life. He wanted to kill Lin Ling. Lin Ling, on the other hand, fought with his life on the line. He was riddled with wounds, and there were a few times where he was almost killed. You are already as weak as an old man, Qian Xianshan said disdainfully. However, he was much weaker now. You're about the same. Haven't you noticed that the gap between us is getting smaller and smaller? Facing Qian Xianshan's strong provocation, Lin Ling naturally responded with tit for tat. You have a sharp tongue, but so do you. I hope you won't die after this move. Qian Xuanshan laughed out loud. He raised his hands high up in the air, allowing the 5 golden torrents to gather together and form a huge golden ocean. With a crazy smile on his face, he pushed it towards Lin Ling. My lord, please spare my life. As soon as the golden ocean surged out, many soldiers cried out in fear. That was because the burning of the realm essence was enough to kill them. It's your honor to be able to accompany Lin Ling in death, you ants. However, Qian Xianshan shouted disdainfully. In his eyes, only the strong had the right to speak. Only the strong with pride were worthy of his attention, such as Lin Ling. As for the weak, they were dispensable. Rumble. The golden ocean of realm essence directly split the sky of the blue water world into 2. Finally, there was a day when this ancient world was not entirely made of water. Facing such a terrifying power, Lin Ling floated in the sky motionless. He seemed to have nowhere to run, because he was surrounded by the ocean of realm essence. In fact, it was already a miracle that he could last until now with his cultivation of rank 8 martial emperor realm. Almost just a little more. Lin Ling looked solemn. However, he sensed that under the pressure of the ocean of realm essence, the conversion of realm essence in his dantian became faster. Even the fish pearl that he had swallowed not long ago was being refined rapidly. Rumble. Lin Ling's body rumbled. At that moment, his realm essence had been converted to 80%. It's not enough. However, Lin Ling still stood there with a crazy look in his eyes. The path of martial arts was mostly divided into 3 paths. First, gradual progress, step-by-step cultivation. This was Lin Ling's cultivation state in the past. Second, good preparation, like polishing one's sword for 10 years. Lin Ling rarely came into contact with this kind of cultivation state. Third, survival after a disaster. The third path was the path taken by martial fanatics. They were not willing to take gradual progress, so they looked for a breakthrough in the midst of death. Now Lin Ling was walking on the third path. I, Qian Xianshan, can die without regrets after meeting you in my life. Qian Xuanshan's eyes were filled with regret as he stared ahead. He clenched his fist and said, Die! Rumble. The golden torrent completely devoured Lin Ling. The entire place was filled with a golden ocean. Any living thing that came into contact with the ocean would die instantly. It was extremely powerful. Is he dead? The crowd wore complicated expressions as they sensed the powerful pressure. Today, the youngest great commander of the martial god platoon had challenged the great commander of the older generation and lost the battle. However, he had also left a great name for himself. He had told the crowd what a real soldier was and what a real martial artist was. The name of Lin Ling of the martial god platoon might be passed down for 10,000 years. Someone said with a sigh. As a matter of fact, many people were impressed by Lin Ling's determination and courage to fight against the heavens and earth. They admired Lin Ling. I'm sorry I'm still alive. The gap between us is getting smaller. However, at this moment a weak voice was heard. It was like a clap of thunder that shocked the entire army. On the ground, the young man appeared again. He was holding his sword with one hand. The sword was propped up against the ground, supporting his wounded body. His clothes were tattered, and his body was covered in blood. However, his handsome face was still looking up at the sky with that unruly smile on his face. Enduring the pain, clenching his teeth stubbornly, never giving in. That was Lin Ling. He was still alive. Boom. Everyone's hearts were about to explode. What kind of willpower did he need to survive? Even Commander Qian Xianshan was startled. However, he gradually smiled. For some reason, he was not angry when he saw that Lin Ling was still alive. Instead, he felt relieved. He was impressed by Lin Ling's determination in the battle. He's a cockroach. How could this be? Qian Xianshan, kill him. He's exhausted. Alright, I'll kill him. Alright. Among the crowd, Wu Yongqing was the one who wanted Lin Ling to die the most. Now the army was convinced of Lin Ling's strength. They admired him as much as the heavens. Then, Wu Yongqing flew out and walked towards Lin Ling. Trash, you're half dead. How can you be so arrogant? Don't you want to kill me? Come and kill me. Everyone stared at Wu Yongqing. Many of them clenched their fists secretly. That guy was too ugly. Lin Ling looked up with a cold face. He was motionless. He also wanted to kill that clown. However, he had no strength left. And seeing that the soldiers do not dare to rebel, Wu Yongqing held Qian Xuanshan's neck and laughed. I'll give you a chance. Tell me, between me and Lin Ling, who is stronger? If you answer well, I'll let you die well. If you don't answer well, then you will die in pain. In the past, he could only use his identity to be proud of himself in front of the Qian Profound God. But now, it was as if he was even stronger than the Qian Profound God. As if he could control everything about the Qian Profound God. Hee. Qian Xianshan laughed sarcastically. The difference between you two is like the difference between heaven and earth. Lin Ling is the cloud in the sky. He is the cloud in the sky. Then I must be the firmament above his head. Wu Yongqing laughed with a proud look on his face. Qian Xianshan laughed even louder when he heard that. He even coughed up blood. However, he laughed even more sarcastically. No, you are a pile of shit on the ground. The last sentence was spoken in a very loud voice. In the ancient ruins, that sentence continued to reverberate. You are a pile of shit on the ground. Haha. The army was stunned for a moment, then they laughed mockingly. You are fucking courting death. Wu Yongqing was also stunned for a moment. Then he became furious. He grabbed Qian Xuanshan's neck and was about to exert more force. Qian Xianshan laughed when he saw that. He did not care at all. However, at this moment, a cold voice was heard around them. You are indeed a pile of shit. The voice was extremely deep and magnetic. Following that, an arm instantly stretched out and grabbed Wu Yongqing's neck, causing the latter to suck in a breath of cold air. When he turned his head to look, he saw a familiar figure floating behind him. It was none other than Lin Ling. He was still covered in wounds. He was holding Wu Yongqing with his single arm. His eyes were extremely cold. It was a shocking scene for those watching from the ground. Qian Xuanshan's eyes widened. He laughed as if he had just regained his consciousness. Lin Ling was still alive. This guy was truly a pervert. As a matter of fact, Qian Xianshan did not know that Lin Ling had managed to dodge the terrifying attack when the realm of origin was approaching him. However, when he was about to dodge the attack, he had also accomplished his goal. Lin Ling. Master. Countless soldiers roared. They were excited. They were incomparably excited. Lin Ling had created another miracle. Although no one knew how Lin Ling had managed to dodge the realm of origin, the fact was that Lin Ling was still alive. You are really tough. However, one of you is half dead, and the other is half crippled. What do you think you can do? Lin Ling, let go of my neck. Otherwise, I will kill you and all your scouts. Wu Yongqing reprimanded him, after recovering from his shock. Lin Ling smiled when he heard that. His bent spine slowly straightened. His broken left arm slowly grew back. Chapter 23:13. The military situation has changed after Wu Yongqing died. Great Commander Huang Qi and the others felt relieved. The current situation seemed to have come to an end. As for Great Commander Qian Xian, he seemed to have made peace with Lin Ling. Most importantly, the other great commanders seemed to have recognized Lin Ling. Now Lin Ling was a true great commander, and he was the leader of the great commanders. In the previous bloody battle, not only were the great commanders impressed, but even the entire army was impressed by Lin Ling. Haha, it's really lively. However, you want to kill me with just you? If I didn't have something important to do, you would have been annihilated. At this time, a monstrous wave appeared in the distance. Countless giant white fish came over in a grandiose manner. They actually blocked the sky and earth in front of them. Those were curved gate giant fish. Every fish represented a world king powerhouse. And now there were actually countless giant fishes in front of them. At this moment, everyone's expression changed dramatically. On one of the giant golden white fish, a man with red hair and a tentacle-like beard stood there. He held a fork in his hand, as if he was the god of the sea. Behind him, the phantom of a phoenix appeared. Moreover, it was a 9-headed phoenix with blue feathers. Sea Burial Disorderly Phoenix King. Even the eyes of the Grand Commander and the others trembled violently. The mission this time was to kill the Sea Burial Disorderly Phoenix King. But they had clearly underestimated the Sea Burial Disorderly Phoenix King's strength. Army retreat. Just as the curved gate giant fish were about to arrive, a cold shout suddenly sounded. A 3-headed carriage appeared in the sky, pulling a man in bronze armor. He looked forward with a dignified expression. Deputy General Hong Jing. Many great commanders exclaimed as they stared at the god of war man. A deputy general was a powerhouse below the great commanders. He was even more powerful than the great commanders. He usually followed the marshal into battle, but now he had appeared here. The battle situation has changed. The Marshal God Battalion orders the army to retreat. Deputy General Hong Jing said coldly, waving the flag in his hand. Of course, everybody knew that the situation had changed, because the Sea Burial Demon Phoenix was much more powerful than they expected. Even the whole army couldn't stop the Sea Burial Demon Phoenix. Sea Burying Disorderly Phoenix King's strength had likely reached the late World King realm. Hee how smart. Far away, Sea Burial Disorderly Phoenix King's voice penetrated through the water, causing pain to many people's eardrums. The weaker ones even directly spurted out blood. As for Deputy General Hong Jing, he did not say much. After waving the flag, he retreated with his army. As for Sea Burial Divergent Phoenix Monarch, he didn't give chase. Chapter 23:14. 8 Gods Heavenly Palace. We don't know who the enemy is yet. It's not good to send experts out. In my opinion, we should investigate the situation first. Senior commanders, do you have any other opinions? Those voices made Lin Ling smile and walk into the tent. Everyone looked at Lin Ling, and many of the senior commanders laughed. Other than the senior commanders, there were 2 people that Lin Ling didn't recognize. One of them was Deputy General Hong Jing. He wore bronze armor and looked at Lin Ling with a smile. As for the other person, he was a white-haired old man. His strength was unfathomable, and he stared at Lin Ling indifferently. Both of them were deputy generals sent by the Marshal God Barracks. In my opinion, the army should head to Mount Bay. The old man stared at Lin Ling and didn't pay much attention to him. If the army goes to Mount Bay, the army will be annihilated if the enemy is too strong. Deputy General Hong Jing frowned. He had ordered the army to retreat, and now the army was going to die. This Deputy General Shan Yang was probably eyeing the treasures of the 8 gods' heavenly palace. As a soldier, how can we be afraid of death? Moreover, the martial god barracks doesn't need such cowards. The old man called Deputy General Shan Yang immediately retorted. This made Deputy General Hong Jing frown even more, and he fell silent. How about this? Let me bring a few people to investigate the situation and make a decision later. Lin Ling suddenly said. No. Deputy General Hong Jing immediately retorted. The other senior commanders also shook their heads. They had already sent people to follow them, but they were all annihilated. Now that Lin Ling had volunteered to go, the outcome would be the same. Of course, the other senior commanders didn't want Lin Ling to die. However, Deputy General Hong Jing knew that Lin Ling had a high position in the general's heart. Therefore, he wanted to protect Lin Ling. Audacious! As a senior commander, how can you speak so arrogantly? How can you be a senior commander? At this time, Deputy General Shan Yang suddenly shouted angrily, reprimanding Lin Ling. In reality, he was indeed very interested in the treasures of the 8 gods' celestial palace, so he firmly opposed the suggestion of returning to the martial god barracks. Because if more experts from the martial god barracks were to come here, then even if they found the 8 gods' celestial palace, it would have nothing to do with him. Now the army was still outside, and the ones with the highest positions were him and Hong Jing. Then, he had a great chance of getting all the treasures. In fact, if the treasure was too valuable, he was even willing to sacrifice his army and kill Deputy General Hong Jing. But now, Lin Ling had volunteered to scout the enemy. This was the opposite of his plan. He didn't want to drag things out for too long. He wanted the army to slaughter their way over.